Africa from a passive consumer of AI solutions to the active creator in the global AI landscape. So let's not be the passive people who are scrolling. What are we actually building, and how are we leveraging this fantastic technology? Today we are going to hear from the founders. We're also going to hear from voices from the ecosystem, because this is an ecosystem of builders, and it is not done by one organization. This includes a strategic convening of academia, industry, governments, investors, and civil society. We want to collectively address the continent's unique opportunities to be able to embrace AI, whatever the challenges may be, but most importantly, to build sovereign AI capacity on the continent. If you are posting on social media, please tag hashtag Qubit Hub or hashtag Qubit in your social media mentions. Thank you. Now we're ready to get started. We're going to start with the founding members of Qubit Hub. As I describe who you are, please come up to the stage. Modhoni, the COO of Amini AI. Modhoni is an East African tech operations leader with a background in securities investment, where she has a proven track record of building transformative technology solutions for underserved communities. A passionate advocate for the power of data, Modhoni is dedicated to harnessing this potential to solve some of Africa's most pressing challenges, including climate change, food security, and systemic development. She believes that data-driven innovation can hyperscale the economic, social, technological, and sustainable transformation of the global South. Welcome, Modhoni. Riaz, CEO, Angani. Riaz is a CEO at Angana Limited, a cloud services provider in Africa, working to bring back a lot of Africa's content back to the continent. He was previously the founding CTO of two very successful telecom ventures, Wananchi Group, the first triple play company in Africa, and Kenya Data Networks, now Liquid Telecom. Riaz is the initial founder of Skunkworks and was part of the founding iHub advisory board in 2010. He's also one of the pioneers in cloud computing in Kenya. Welcome, Riaz. Next is Dr. Shiko. Dr. Shiko is the CEO of Kala, a digital innovation company driving Africa's transformation. With over a decade of experience in emerging markets, she has led innovation across agriculture, education, health, payments, retail, and co-authored the Digital Government Blueprint while at the Africa Development Bank. Having also worked at Google and Microsoft, she bridges business, government, and technology. She advises governments on digital policy, serves on several boards, and holds a PhD and a Master of Science in Computer Science from the University of Cape Town. Welcome, Dr. Shiko. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Yes, it's an awkward fourth chair. Or fifth chair. All right, let's start with why are we here? Why Qubit and why now? Let's start with you, Shiko.
I thought you were going to start with them, so I can manage my emotions. Seeing the room full is one of those things. I was telling the team we've been trying to do the hub for 3 years. And we've been told many times it can't be done because Africa is not ready to build its own AI. We don't have enough talent. We don't have enough money to buy compute. We don't have data sets. So seeing all of you here is a believability aspect that it can be done. So thank you so much for coming. Let me start with that. So I'm going to give you a story of why Qubit, and I'm going to put somebody on the spot. I had warned them that I'm going to do it. Kala was founded in December of 2019, and in March of 2020, what happened? COVID. We were a small team of about 8 people. Many of us were data scientists, and we didn't know. I had turned down jobs, used my savings to set up Kala's, paid salaries for the first 3 months as we were waiting for the company to start. And I remember somebody in the team said, oh, this is COVID, but we have done this before. What had we done? In our previous employer, we had built a model to track down cholera across the continent, across the country. So we said, what can we do with COVID? So we built a very simple model to predict what would happen if COVID was to hit the whole country. And I remember I called Joe Micherum. I said, Joe, we have done this thing. We don't know if it's going to be useful, but we have done it. And Joe, being Joe, told us, come at 5 in the morning at a certain, at a certain hotel and show. And we showed him. And he said, okay, how much time do you need to refine this? Because he's a techie, he understands, yeah? And we said, okay, give us like a week. Then, of course, it was on a Friday, right, when COVID was announced, so it was a Saturday morning. So, of course, on Monday, Joe calls and says, how far are you? I said, I thought we said 10 days. Because it was an urgent case. So we were sitting at our co-working. He comes and sits with us for a couple of hours to refine our questions. And Joe gave us a kick to be able to believe we can change the world. And I'm not going to cry. And that moment for me has never been gone away. Because what we want Qubit to do is to provide that moment for many people in Africa who don't have the enabling environment, somebody who believes in your ideas, somebody who has talent, who has capacity to do it. So when I met Kate in San Francisco, Kate is the CEO of Amini, and I said, Kate, we need to get GPUs for Africa. And she was like, let's do this. And the first person I called out after that was Riaz, and said, Riaz, we are getting GPUs for Africa. We didn't know at that time how we were going to do it, but we just said we are going to do it. And Riaz said, I'm willing to chip in some space, I'm willing to do this, we are going to just do it. And we started doing it. And just having people who believe in something together, you know, there's the believability in even the Bible says when there's unity, God commands a blessing. And that's what has happened. The moment we said we are coming together to do, somebody offered to buy some GPUs. Amini provided some GPUs. We have their space. And for me, this space is for creating that enabling environment for African AI researchers and developers and startups to start a space to believe. And that's why I called Joe and said, you have to come. And I'm happy that he came, because this is a believability and it's an extension of that moment he gave to all of us.
That's fantastic. Riaz, maybe you could also speak a little bit to the vision. What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I think, we have a similar story. When last year, I think, was it April or July, we had the FinTech forum, held a breakfast, and Ngani was there, and I stood there. And my team had been telling me, like this AI thing is happening, and we're going to be there. We're going to run GPUs, and I had no idea then how it would happen and what would happen. But I stood up and said that, Ngani is going to help, and we're going to make it happen. And again, similarly, I got a call from Shiko, and she said, this is what we want to do. So it was a no-brainer. We had to get behind it and give it whatever resources we have. At the same time, our team had been working on, hosting when DeepSeek came out and Llama before that, and just to try and optimize whatever we had, because that's what we do, right? We build from the ground up. We don't have the billions, but we take what we have and we optimize and we build it. And so the team had been playing with stuff, and so it's just been incredible to see everything come together. And for me, again, it's about it's about what comes next. It's about the next generation. It's very important that just like we've had the opportunities, we've had the environments, we create the environments for the next generation. A lot of what you see today has been put together by the teams at Kala, at Ngani, at Amini. It's actually the teams. We get to sit here today, but kudos to the teams that have worked and actually made it all happen. And that's the generation that now is going to carry this forward. And that's the energy I see. And for us, it's just to give them the resources and invest in that, invest our resources in that. And that's what drives us. And, the best thing is to be able to do it with friends who've come from far in the industry. We have certain capabilities. Let's just pool together resources and give the community a space where now we can actually take AI and future technologies and move forward with them.
So everything they've said is exactly why we're here, and I think, like Shiko said, when Amini and Kala connected on this, it was not even 20 minutes before we were like, we're doing this together. And something she said I want to echo is actually belief. So Amini, I think most of you will know, it means belief, faith. And the story of how Amini started actually, like every great startup, a couple people in a coffee shop. And when we were saying we're going to build an AI company from Kenya with Kenyan talent, everybody was, and this is before, ChatGPT became what it is today and made everybody aware of what AI is. There was a lot of questions around what, why, are you okay? And maybe the background of a lot of our team is, so Kate, my founder, is from NVIDIA, has a long storied history in deep tech, but a lot of the team as well, ARM, Apple, Huawei, NASA, all of that. But why did we come together to do what we're doing in Amini? It's because we really believed in one thing and one thing only. It was the talent here is very capable of delivering at a global level, but more importantly, has very, very real problems that they want to solve, and anything they do will make 10 times the difference that they would have made anywhere else in the world. And so Amini is really about that core, but one of the things that we really wanted to prove when we were starting out is we can be a beacon for what is possible, what talent here can do while staying here on the continent. But one of the things we realized is actually it's about making it known. The awareness is just not there. The opportunity, I think that's what you've also talked about, the enabling environment. So sometimes why we were making that decision to be, the crazy ones to do it first, is just to show other people that it is possible. You might fail, it will be hard, but it's possible. And so Qubit for us is really about shining that beacon and just making anyone aware. You might not know how AI is built. You might just be walking past. But if you have a chance to see, actually, it's just regular people like me and you coming in here and doing this, I think that then sparks a change that even I don't think we sitting here are aware of how big this can become. And it's literally just the opportunity. So that's the only reason we're here, is to give as many people as possible the opportunity to get into this, build what they need to build. So that's really at the core of what we're trying to achieve here with Qubit.
Fantastic. And what I'm told these days is you can show your appreciation just like that, or clap. But thank you. That's definitely very inspiring. So now let's set the stage for those who are here today to better understand what is this overarching context in which you are launching Qubit Hub. Riaz, according to some global North AI companies, for humanity to build better AI, we need compute. More data, more energy, more LLMs, and more electricity to fuel the technology. Are you of the same opinion? And to what extent is Africa a part of this race?
I think now we are, right? We have to solve our problems in our way. Look at the data center market, because that's historically a lot of infrastructure, a lot of investment. So there's certain things that match with whatever you get in the West and you have to do in the West. And there's certain things that you have to do at the scale we have here. I mean, Africa is not interesting for a lot of companies out there because it's like 2% of their budget, their GDP, whatever it is. So, but you see, for us, it's 100%. It's how do we take that to grow to 500%? It's very easy. We're like a startup, and so we do things the startup way. So for whatever we need to do, I think the resources out there. Now, there's a lot of so in terms of what we need to train and what we need to start getting our hands dirty with and to serve businesses with and to move our economies forward, obviously we don't need a huge amount of resources. And that's what we're going to use. But Africa is also blessed with a lot of clean energy, green energy, and I know it's attractive right now. So you will see investments. They will see people coming, making investments into the large data centers, the large power plants, etc., that AI needs for overall training. But for us, we grow organic, right? We're not going looking to raise funds and then try and grow from there. We're sustainable. That's so that's what we're doing. We take the first steps and we grow from there. The capacity already that is available exists. What we need is we need certain level of concessions, right? So we need certain level of reduced power costs, being able to bring in hardware, things like that. Those would help to go forward a long way.
Fantastic. And I know we'll be hearing from policymakers who perhaps will also speak to how will those concessions become enabled. So thank you for that. But continuing with this theme around the wars and the race, Shiko, what is AGI and how are you envisioning where Africa plays into AGI and specifically the Qubit Hub?
So there's AGI, which was like 2024, and now there's super intelligence, which is now 2025. And it's basically a version of artificial intelligence. So AGI is artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence, ASI. It's all a version of AI, yeah, that is mimics as much human activities as possible. Every time I sit in one of these conversations, I will say, whose reality is being represented with AI, yeah? A certain CEO once said that AI is the truest representation of human capacity. And my question was, human intent. And I said, whose intent, yeah? Because you've not spoken about Africa. Africa has more than 2,300 languages. How many of those are digitized, leave alone AI ready? Less than 50, right? And those ones that are AI ready, who has, of the 4 or 5 frontier models, how many of them have a tokenizer for Maasai or for other things? How many of them? None of them have. So we need to be able to solve for this. For it to be truly AGI, it needs to be representative of Africa, yeah? And that's why we are here. And we are really grateful for, so 2 months ago, there was a huge uproar around AI is going to be the next doctor. Doctors are not going to be there in the next 10 years. So we said, okay, we agree, but let's test it from an African perspective. And Fred, who leads our health and AI work, we did what we call a benchmark. And the benchmark tool was to test the models on how well are they performing with health from an African perspective. What did we do? We got 100 African doctors to tell us how they actually apply health in their normal day. We recorded that, made them into a model and into a benchmark, and tested the models against that. And many of them failed. And they failed in some of the biggest diseases that we have, which is the longest pandemic in the world. Do we all know it? HIV. 40 years of HIV, and most of the models were only showing 6, at most 7 questions for HIV. Which is the most persistent, which is the biggest killer disease? Huh? Malaria. Malaria was highly underrepresented as well. There's a partner disease to malaria. Dengue fever. And another one, there are 3 of them. They come together. No, sickle cell. All of them highly underrepresented in all of these models. And if we had not pointed out to these, they will have gone on being underrepresented. Why? Because all the models have been created against the American medical college entrance exams. Not Kenya, not Rwanda, American data sets, which means that if we didn't have a medical person in our team testing these things, it will not have happened. If we didn't have 100 doctors that we had access to help us test this, it would not have happened. So we have to, this AGI has to be built an African AGI, so I'm just going to add an extra A. It has to have an African version of it for it to be truly AGI. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we've heard from an infrastructure perspective, perhaps we don't need the big guns. It's just a matter of building with what we've got. But certainly trying to seek some concessions. We're hearing about the opportunities to be able to have representative data sets. Modoni, I have a question for you. Who's building this? And is there a risk to talent being taken away from the continent? Especially, there's been a lot of hype around how the big techs are really fighting for talent amongst themselves. How do you and how does Qubit view this risk for talent if it's there, and how will Qubit try to curb it?
We've all heard about the $100 million pay packages, and it must be nice, can't begrudge them that. And you know what, I think there's a couple of parts to this question. First of all, when you're thinking about an African talent, they do this, and if they have the skills and the capability of building at that level, I think they do deserve to have equal economic opportunity, right? So I think the challenge for me isn't necessarily about the talent. It's about how do we create that economic opportunity here so that talent doesn't feel the need to leave. Because actually most people, you'll find, don't want to leave home. I'm one of them. I was desperate to come back. Everybody wants to build here. Everyone wants to build for their neighbors, for their families, for their communities. So what is currently pushing them away from that deep desire? Again, it's the opportunity. How many I think we have 1% of the world's GPUs. So you're doing deep research. How are you actually, getting anywhere with it? Then on the other side of that, it's also the quality of work. So, for example, if you're just taking something that's been pre-built and maybe inputting it into a chatbot to do what XYZ for your large enterprise corporate company that you're working for, it's not as fulfilling as someone who feels like they're working on a fundamental problem. So how do we make sure that you have the opportunities here to do the work and still have the global impact that a lot of these developers are looking for? So I think one of the things I think that you have mentioned is the opportunity you had where they turned to Kala to do the work that was needed for the Kenyan context. So if you have a large enterprise or a government agency or something with a specific technical challenge, their first instinct a lot of the time is to look to the people who are offering $100 million pay packages. But there's people here doing that work. Kala's here, Amini's here, and I'm sure there's a few more, Bambo's here. There's a lot of people in the audience doing a lot of very meaningful work. But a lot of the time, you just don't have the chance to prove it. And we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Because if you're not paying local companies to do important work, how are you going to complain that there's a brain drain, your talent is leaving the country? Who's supposed to pay them here locally, right? But I think if we're smart, we can actually use this opportunity to, rearrange or redistribute economic power and have it actually sat here, because everyone's still figuring this out. AI feels like a done deal, but I don't think we're even 10% or even 5% of the way there, and it changes every 3 months, right? So how can we make sure that we're setting up ourselves to not be importers and consumers of technology, but actually to become exporters? And that's exactly what Qubit is here for. And that's a mission that we've been on as Amini for a long time. We've really believed from the very first day, like I said, we believed in our talent, but we knew we were not going to do it alone. We wanted to have an ecosystem of partners that we work with to make sure that we're reaching as many and as widely as possible. So for example, we have a long-standing partnership with a platform called Zindi, the biggest platform for machine learning / data science engineers on the continent. And it's a great story, you can go read it on their website, of a citizen science challenge that we did with them. And this was, you didn't have to be a data scientist, you could be a regular person, all you needed was a phone, start participating in data collection, data cleaning, so understand the process of how you build these models. And actually from that challenge, there's a few people who today went from completely not understanding anything about data science, today are working as data scientists. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Another thing we have is an API playground where we're making it accessible for people to use pre-built models or use their own models We have a compute orchestrator, so you can actually come, and that's what's going to be powering the hub here. Gives access to compute. So you're doing research. You might not have GPU access on your own, but you can come on their request, and it will actually allocate you compute for whatever project you're doing. Also data sets. So we're kind of trying to bring together the very core fundamental building blocks of AI, not so that we can build the tools and whatever else, so that everybody else can build it. Because I cannot tell you what somebody in Namibia needs, what AI solution they need. But the person sat in Namibia has that idea. They just need the resources and the opportunity to actually get on with it. And so that's why we're here. I think that's why we're all here. It's just like, let everybody else get on with it. But we have to acknowledge that we have some fundamental building blocks that we need to put in place. So I think it's a challenge, not maybe necessarily to us up here, but to everybody in here. If you have an opportunity to incorporate AI or digitization or whatever in your own organizations, are you turning to the local ecosystem and seeing what is available here first? Why is our instinct always to go elsewhere? So in terms of talent, I do think it's a little bit secondary, but I also hope that the lab is that opportunity that they need. But the lab is a little bit of a great equalizer, because what it does is, like we did with the Zindi Challenge, bring in people who maybe don't necessarily have the education, the background, because that's another great thing about what we do. I can't tell you what degrees half my engineers have. I couldn't tell you. But I know they're brilliant, I know they deliver, I know they're passionate, and that's all you really need in this day and age where things are going so quickly. We need more talent than we have access to a lot of the time. But at the same time, I know everybody is brilliant. And so even, for example, I don't know if he's here today, a lot of our team comes from local universities, the Kut and Nyeri, I think everyone's familiar with them. So even as companies, just understanding that we also can look locally and internally and find that talent here, I think that's the starting point. But long story short, nobody wants to leave home. They're usually pushed out of home. So how do we make sure we are allowing them to stay here?
Fantastic. And now, Shiko, if I can ask, so certainly AI is becoming increasingly multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. It's academia, researchers are AI, everybody is AI in terms of beyond just productivity and how they may use it in their personal capacities. But oftentimes in this tech journey, we've spoken about misaligned incentives. What are those misaligned incentives when you talk about academia, government, and what are some of those partnerships that can be leveraged or can be grown and can come out of Qubit?
Awesome, thank you. I'm happy that both Melissa and Prof. Nderu, I've just made him a professor, he's Dr. Nderu from JKUAT is here, and Jackie actually is here because they're all different types of researchers. And so the biggest challenge we have in Africa, and why I personally quit academia, is there's no incentive to do great research at the academic level, yeah? And so, which means that downstream, we thin out on great innovations. And Tony Omansa was supposed to be here, but he's on a commercialization summit this week. And then we thin out on what is going to be commercialized. So what we want to do with Qubit, because it's university agnostic, what is it called? Big tech agnostic, government agnostic, is to create a space where researchers, whether you're a researcher from a university or from a big tech or small tech research lab or from government, you can be able to come and do your research and see it from an industrial lens. You have to look at AI is an IP business. It's not just a paper business. It's what IP are we producing? Oh, and Professor Musi there from Daystar, I'm seeing all the professors now. Yeah, is come do your independent research, show value, create IP, commercialize your IP. And that's what happens when you bring brilliant people together. I always tell people, the best thing that happened to me when I was in academia, when I was a university student is more appropriate, is I got an internship with Microsoft. And Microsoft research, I always say, we got exposed to things that were coming 5 years later, yeah? So I remember when we were talking about the tablet, and it was like, a tablet. This was 2008, yeah? and you're talking about this thing that is you're going to be using on your phone, on your but it helps you dream. And we are hoping that we can be able to infuse some of that and work with universities to allow, you're not just doing this to write a paper, but you're doing this to be able to dream and to be able to build capacity to be able to build that IP, because IP is the most important thing in this game. Sorry, welcome PS. We are giving PS a few minutes to settle in. Karibu sana, sir. So our goal with this is to create like a highly versatile research environment for people to be able to build and to dream big, yeah? So when I was calling Jackie, I was hoping Jackie can come, and Jackie will definitely be coming to the lab once a month to give a talk or to train some of the researchers, yeah? We have, Musi has been here, we're giving him a desk from Daystar, yeah? Dr. Nderu, Dr. Nderu is always, like, if you see enough pictures of color, you'll see Dr. Nderu everywhere, right? And so for us, it is being able to say, you in academia, bring in your students, bring in your research problems, let us work with them together. And there's going to be an announcement today, I don't want to preempt it, of a fellowship that we are going to be announcing around that. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. I think as we begin to close this panel, Riaz, okay, we can no longer say look out 5 years and predict. Everything is happening in bursts of 3 months. So maybe let's even go a couple of quarters. What are you envisioning is happening in the Qubit Hub? What are you hopeful for?
Connections. Already just today, a few colleagues who I know each of them are doing their own thing. Sam is building in his bedroom. Abraham's doing some stuff, and they're all doing stuff related to AI, but they've not met. So it's these connections. We hope more people will come together. We hope that more of these connections come about, and in that, more ideas like Qubit will be born, because it takes a phone call, it takes a connection. So I think that the space has been created, the resources have been created. Let's see how best to make use of them. AI has a home in Kenya. That's what we said now, and that's at Qubit. So it's a space. It's available for events. It's available for training. It's available for, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's available for your data. You've not told them.
It's available for your data. Shiko comes to me. We have data sets. We have this massive data set. I'm like, how much? Like, it's okay. Bring the data sets. It's fine. We have the storage. So we have lots of storage for the data sets. We have the compute. So let's make good use of all of that, and just let's form these connections, within the space.
Fantastic. Modoni, any parting words around your outlook for the next couple of quarters?
Like I said, like I think we've just said, it's hard to tell what's going to happen next week. However, what I do hope comes to be is, like I said earlier, if we can become exporters versus just consumers, I think I will be happy. And whatever form that takes, it might not necessarily be that we built, the biggest model running on, $1 billion a day compute. It might just be something that's a very practical solution that actually you're exporting from Kenya to Nepal, because they have a very similar context. So that's actually how Amini has been able to grow in the last couple of years. We started out really focused on East Africa, but slowly started to realize what we're doing here, the same problems are being faced, across the global south, in Barbados, in Brazil, in Cambodia, and everything else. So how do we make sure that whatever, and I think one of the things that I appreciate about building here specifically is the problem. We're really focused on very fundamental problems. And once you find that you're focusing on something that's a very, very, very pure fundamental problem, you will find it has an application almost anywhere in the world. So it's fine, people can be building, AI that makes you like the prettiest or whatever. But once you have something that's solving, for farmers, for energy, for healthcare, you will find that is something that is needed desperately multiple places. And I hope that the story for us is that we have become actually the leaders in exporting some of those really, really great solutions. That's all. That's all I really hope.
Fantastic. I love the vision. And Shiko, maybe with a bit of a lens around, it's a Pan-African platform. So this is not a Kenya launch. This is a Pan-African launch. What are you envisioning in terms of anyone who's watching in, let's say, Nigeria or Egypt? What can they anticipate in terms of Qubit?
So it's Pan-African. You're going to see both. We tried having like a geographical representation. So you're going to have both Egypt and Lesotho represented, and others actually joining on because they didn't get permission to actually speak. But we wanted to be able to have Africans working with each other. I always tell people, don't go and pitch. I know John is here. Don't pitch Kenya. Pitch Africa, because America pitches itself as a 350 million population. China 1.2 billion. Africa, Kenya 50 million. Rwanda 14 million. We pitch our small markets, and nobody sees the versatility of the continent as one single market. The good thing, one of the partners of the lab is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, where they're setting up an AI sandbox. So if you have a model, if you have a data set, if you have a tool that you want to be used Pan-African, you use the trade AI sandbox to be able to have it available to any developer, any government across the continent. And that's why we are doing this, is to ensure that Africans are succeeding in Africa and abroad. That is the goal about it. And you can work with your counterpart in Algeria. And that's why you got North Africa to be part of our launch. And in Southern Africa or in Nigeria, people are able to do this. So there's going to be an online registration and vetting process. I'm saying vetting because that will be there for you to be part of the lab, to access the GPUs, our GPUs, and NVIDIA is going to be announcing later on, we're going to have a bit of like compute credits for a few people, but we want to be able to have anything sovereign in health, in agriculture that you cannot do outside the continent. You can access the GPUs locally and use them. So thank you.
Exciting. Can we get a round of applause? And I think, thank you from the ecosystem. You took what was simply an idea, and the best way to get started is to get started. And this launch, I think, is really representative of that. So thank you, Shiko. Thank you, Riaz. Thank you, Muthoni. Thank you. All right, we're going to be agile this afternoon. All right, so next we're going to move towards some keynote addresses. And this is really to understand from the perspective of governance, from the perspective of policymakers, how are they thinking about this opportunity in AI? How are they thinking about how it is we are able to create in a very sovereign way for our continent? There'll be 4 keynote addresses. And we will start with Honorable Mr. Stephen Motari Isaboke, Principal Secretary, State Department for Broadcasting and Telecommunications, Kenya. Honorable Isaboke is the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunications, as I've said. He's overseeing policy development in telecommunications, broadcasting, e-commerce, postal services, local content, and government communications. He's a seasoned executive with over 25 years of leadership across technology, media, oil and gas, and renewable energy in Kenya and the UAE. He previously served as the Group Executive Director, Regulatory and Government Affairs Africa Region at MultiChoice Africa Holdings in Dubai, and held senior roles at MultiChoice Group, Kenya, Shell, Sara Lee, and Unilever. Honorable Isaboke is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK, a member of the Institute of Directors in Kenya, and holds an MBA in Strategic Management from the University of Nairobi. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I should have been prepared for what I was actually coming into, seeing really all the friends, Waziri Musheru, Ambassador Kabira, from my old, obviously, life, and really an exciting group of my friend here from the tech and everything. A very exciting group of people. So as you've heard, my name is Stephen Isaboke. I newly joined government. I was one of you really in private sector for a long time. Waziri, the CS Musheru, just immediate former CS, will tell you about that. And just joined in government in this space of telecoms and broadcasting. And obviously, because telecoms give you the platform where everything else plays, that's how we come into this space. Because data without connectivity is nothing. So it will be dead. And that's how we interplay. And policy cuts across. So really for me, an honor to join you this afternoon, all protocols observed, as I've recognized my good friends here, and also I see online or understand my predecessor, actually, I was newly also elected into the ATU chairmanship of Africa Telecoms Union. I see Honorable Kanono was actually meant to be here or online. I see also Professor Vitange Ndemo, Ambassador, I understand he joined online earlier, is in Europe. And Amir Farouk from the Ministry of Communications and Technology from Egypt. And then obviously Ambassador Kabira, that is a colleague at the ministry. So really, I am honored to join you this afternoon. And I'm so glad that I actually just got a snippet of what the panelists were actually talking about this afternoon. So obviously to join the Qubit Hub Research Center and by Kala, as I understand the operators, in partnership with Amini AI and Angani. This really these are the co-founders of this initiative. And today's launch of the Qubit Hub could not be more timely because in fact it aligns perfectly with our country's recent 2025-2030 National AI Strategy, and I think it's actually posted online, that seeks to position Kenya as a regional leader in AI research, development, and commercialization. And like my good friend here, Chao Musheru, and the predecessor used to say, data is a new currency. Data is actually the new oil. And now, obviously, AI is riding on data. And I think the panelists will talk about data and give us data and all that. So that time that we used to talk about the future is now. And obviously, all of it relying on data to actually run. The government of Kenya is actually steadfast in our commitment to build a robust digital ecosystem. And as envisioned in the digital superhighway pillar, which is actually one of the 5 pillars, and I'm not talking politics, I'm talking development communication. My brother will recall, I'm talking development communication. So of the 5 pillars talking development, one of the pillars is actually the digital superhighway and creative economy. And that actually addresses the digital transformation. And the digital superhighway is actually meant to be a backbone of connectivity that runs 100,000 kilometers of cable across the country. And I'm glad the people who preceded us, like Cho here and the rest, did very good groundwork. And in fact, that work was going on. All we're doing is actually fulfilling a dream that was actually set. Underpinning that 100,000 kilometer cable will actually be digital hubs. These are really centers in the villages called wards where people may not have sort of connectivity in their homes, can actually converge and access digital services, basically the internet and computing power in the villages. And also that underpins another 25,000 public Wi-Fi hotspots. So sometimes we in Nairobi or the up and privileged assume everyone has got, like a smartphone, all wired up, connected devices, and they're actually on. There's so many people who will have to rely on some internet capacity, some internet touch point to actually access the internet. And that's what the government is actually accelerating to make sure that we actually bridge the digital divide between those who have access and like us, who are basically in, and those who might have the knowledge but do not have the access. And these efforts will ensure that every Kenyan has access to high-speed connectivity and digital services. Most importantly, the infrastructure spur investments like Qubit, which we are actually launching today, that will actually power our country's innovators to engage in cutting-edge AI research, learning, and development. So it's basically just giving access, which then enables all the other stuff, innovation to happen. So ultimately, by bridging the digital divide, as I mentioned, we're laying a foundation for a future where no Kenyan will actually be left behind. And I'm so glad, one of the young ladies that spoke here spoke about, let's speak Africa, not Kenya. Let's speak Africa, not Kenya. Because combined, we've got nearly 1 billion or 800 million to about 1 billion people. Many of them young. Africa has got one of the best youth profiles across the world. Luckily also educated now, as you can recognize from the Kenyan Gen Zs, very educated, very savvy. And what else can we do? We actually have to digitally include them. We just make sure that they're actually in the digital era, in the digital economy, and they can actually participate either as innovators, participating in every segment of that economy. And it's, for me, very commendable that Qubit Hub is focused on nurturing local talent through certified training, mentorship, advanced research, and by building a strong pipeline of AI engineers, data scientists, and digital leaders, Qubit Hub will actually create, nurture, and empower the next generation of African innovators. I applaud this commitment and encourage that Qubit Hub, alongside all our other partners, to continue investing in Kenya's emerging ICT sector, and indeed, I dare say, both Kenya and Africa, to assure that, in fact, we will continue supporting and safeguarding these sort of investments. And as my Waziri will actually tell you, Kenya has always been running a liberal economy. We went market economy in the 70s when many of the economies in Africa were struggling whether to close or be social democrats. We were very, very market driven. So very, very open to foreign investors and sort of foreign partners coming into our space. We as government are particularly keen on fostering an environment that supports research, innovation, and that upholds data privacy, security, and safety as fundamental principles. And data privacy is very important because, in fact, as I said, data is a new currency. So there are all these covenants around data privacy and governance. If your data is actually in my hands or in the hands of a processor, how do they actually use it for the good, not misuse it? And obviously in a legal sense. And most importantly, we also recognize that the success of Kenya's digital transformation agenda will actually largely depend on collaborations across all sectors, including academia, industry, civil society, government, and indeed all of these sort of innovation initiatives as the one that we are actually witnessing today. And by fostering an ecosystem where ideas flourish, innovations thrive, we are actually positioning Kenya and indeed Africa as a global player and leader in the AI landscape. One of the things that obviously we should be conscious about is that Africa has actually always been lagging behind in terms of industrial age and all that. And since this whole digital era is coming in with our own sort of age and awareness, we cannot afford to leave Africa actually again behind in the digital divide. We just make sure that Africa is playing head to head with the rest of the world. And I think the example you're doing today is ensuring that we actually play in that space, not just talk, but actually show it and actually play in that space. And really a round of applause for this initiative. So in my closing remarks, let me also speak directly to every young researcher, entrepreneur, policymaker in this room and beyond. You have a task of determining Africa's AI narrative, and by innovating solutions that tackle our continent's challenges, reflect Africa's shared aspirations and enhance our resilience. So take opportunity to actually create platforms such as Qubit Hub to innovate, to collaborate, and to lead. The government of the Republic of Kenya is firmly behind you, and I dare say welcomes all these innovations and ideas, and we are committed to creating a digitally empowered nation where every citizen has the tools to succeed. With these few remarks, I once again want to congratulate Qubit Hub for actually this initiative, and really wish to actually also encourage that we get more investors coming into our economy in Kenya and across Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Esoboke. And hopefully I can observe a little protocol and make the announcements and the introductions for our following guests. Honorable Mr. Kanono Ramashmole, Principal Secretary, Ministry of Information and Technology of Lesotho. He drives the national agenda on digital transformation, research and innovation, broadcasting, postal services, and public information. He has over 17 years' experience in telecommunications and digital innovation, including 15 in senior leadership. He has worked across telecoms, operations, renewable energy, data center development, and digital finance. Regionally, he maintains strong networks across the SACU bloc and beyond, while on the continental stage, he chairs the AU Technical Experts Group on Communication and ICT. And he previously chaired the ATU preparatory meetings for the ITU World Radio Communication Conference. He is passionate about resilient digital ecosystems, inclusive innovation, and advancing Africa's digital transformation. Welcome.
I wish to extend my deepest gratitude to our host for the invitation. And I also want to congratulate Qubit Hub and the people of Africa on this remarkable milestone. Today marks not only a celebration of innovation, but also a shared leap forward for Africa in the fields of artificial intelligence and digital transformation. I'm particularly honored to share this stage with my colleague, Principal Secretary, Stephen Isabuke, my brother and colleague, Brother Amra from Egypt, and other distinguished speakers who will deliver their keynote addresses. Your insights, leadership, and commitment inspire us to continue pushing forward with partnerships for Africa's digital future. For Lesotho, we strongly believe in collaboration, which we think it is not an option, but a necessity. We remain fully committed to working alongside our neighbors and partners in realizing the ambitions of the African Union's digital transformation strategy and the continental artificial intelligence agenda. We believe that together we can harness the technology as a true enabler of our continent's prosperity. Colleagues, allow me to share Lesotho's vision. Our national digital policy articulates a very bold aspiration. By 2035, Lesotho will be a digitally empowered society that leverages secure technology to create a prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable future. To give life to this vision, earlier this year, we launched the National Digital Transformation Strategy 2025-2030, which places citizens at the center. It seeks to expand digital government, increase internet access, support job creation, small businesses, and also to unlock digital opportunities in health, education, and agriculture. As part of this agenda, we are conducting trials of digital public infrastructure, commonly known as DPIs, as the very foundation for transformation and enablers of AI applications. These pilots includes verifiable credentials and digital IDs, which will strengthen trust in digital interactions streamline access to public services, and also empower citizens to participate fully in the digital economy. Most importantly, it also prioritized the empowerment of youth, women, and innovators, ensuring that no one is left behind as we enter the digital economy. Central to this journey is responsible data governance and ethical AI. As my brother Stephen said, data is no longer just a byproduct of development, but it is a very strategic national asset. In Lesotho, we are reforming our Data Protection Act to align with EU and international standards, while also establishing an independent data protection authority to strengthen trust. Next month, we will validate our new data governance policy in collaboration with African Union. Likewise, our forthcoming AI policy, validated earlier this year, places ethics, accountability, fairness, and inclusion at its core. These are the values that resonate with the Global Digital Compact adopted last year. We are also making progress in applying AI to real development challenges. Our digital health strategy exploits AI-driven solutions for better health outcomes, while we are also conducting studies to assess AI readiness across all other sectors, with emphasis placed on agriculture as identified as a top priority for our government. AI is also being exploited in support of governance innovations, including digital ID and streamlined service delivery. These initiatives are designed to ensure that our digital progress translates into tangible benefits for every citizen. Colleagues, it is in this context that initiatives such as Qubit Hub are critical. By democratizing access to AI, enabling open research, and equipping Africa's next generation with advanced skills, Qubit Hub reflects the Lesotho conviction that collective progress is the only sustainable path forward. We must share knowledge, resources, and capacity across borders so that the digital divide do not become a digital barrier. Looking ahead, we think the work does not end here today with a celebration. Of course, we are happy, but it shouldn't end here. We must sustain this momentum through multi-country projects, joint research programs, and continuous dialogue in digital policy, ethical AI, and open data. In Lesotho, we have relied on inclusive policymaking through multi-stakeholder workshops and public consultation, and we encourage others to adopt a similar model of openness. In conclusion, distinguished colleagues, our collective aspiration is very clear: for Africa to become a leader in ethical, inclusive, and homegrown AI. And we also, to achieve this, we must ensure that we work together, government, academia, private sector, and civil service, including sovereign digital features rooted in African values for the benefit of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Kanono Ramashmole. Next, we have Honorable or Mr. Amir Farouk Safwat, who is the manager of the African Organization Affairs at the International Relations Division, Ministry of Communications and Information Technology of Egypt. Mr. Safwat has over 18 years' experience in digital diplomacy, ICT for development, and international cooperation. He represents Egypt in African intergovernmental organizations and spearheaded the African Continental AI Strategy as chair of the AU Working Group on AI. He also leads the African Telecommunication Union's AI portfolio for the ITU Plenipotentiary 2026 and chairs its working group on Africa's common position for WTDC 2025. Mr. Safwat holds master's degrees in public administration in Singapore and Euro-Mediterranean studies from Cairo University. Welcome, Mr. Safwat.
Well, thank you so much, dear sister. A very good afternoon to all brothers and sisters, distinguished guests, colleagues. I can see I'm very happy to be with you, be among you today, and to witness this very important. And if I'm not really exaggerating, if I can say that it's a historical moment to witness it with you. I can see a couple of very good friends and brothers to me as well. So I wish to start first by thanking you so much for inviting me to be among you today, and to also give me the opportunity to congratulate you on this very bold and important step that you have taken, and the various strides that Kohala and its partners have also been taking in Africa. Actually, what really adds to my happiness and to my appreciation to the work that you're doing, the establishment of Qubit Hub, the launch of this hub is very important because it is so much in alignment with the main priorities that Africa is really lacking now. Those are the main priorities, and those are the challenges that Africa is facing, which is raising the capacity and building the capacities of the African calibers, of the African nations, of the African people, not only for capacity building, not only for those who are developing AI or those who are experts on AI or professionals in AI, but also, which is very important, which I consider as even more important than raising the capacity of those who are developing AI, the technology and AI applications, is raising the capacity and awareness of the consumers of AI, because without the consumers of AI, the grassroots citizens of Africa appreciating the power and the transformative might of AI that it can bring to their daily lives, they will not be using it, they will not be consuming it. And of course, this will discourage the big techs and discourage the FDIs from investing in AI in Africa. So this is where it emanates from, the real importance of educating people on the importance and the benefits and the good that AI could bring to their lives. So this is very important. And who will be doing so? It's the researchers, the developers of AI, because they're the ones who really appreciate the power of AI, and they know what AI could really bring and how it can immensely contribute to solving and addressing the socioeconomic challenges that Africa is facing. So the establishment of this innovation hub is really a game changer, to be a game changer in Africa. Not only this hub, but also this will be a very good example for other countries and other research institutes as well to follow the same steps that you're doing, because this is what we really need in Africa. What also we're lacking in Africa, and the challenges, and I'm sure that your hub, the Qubit Hub, will be addressing as well, is the compute itself, the compute might, the compute power that Africa is really suffering of. And this is of very importance as well. And I'm sure that your hub will also help a lot in developing this section as well. What we're also suffering from in Africa as well, and this is one of the main challenges that we face in the development of AI, adoption of AI, is the brain drain. We have excellent calibers, we have brilliant minds, African brilliant minds, especially in AI and emerging technologies. But the main problem that many of them, they don't really get very good chances or very good opportunities in the African continent. And this is what they're suffering from. And that what really encourages them and makes them to travel abroad. And when they go to any other foreign countries, they are just taken very quickly and very good jobs. So by having a hub similar to yours, as well. This will really encourage many of our young innovators and our young entrepreneurs, startups as well, to stay in Africa, to use their knowledge in Africa, and to use their brains, the brilliant minds that they have for the benefit of the African people. So this also brings to adds to the importance of your hub as well. I also wish to touch on some of the work that we've been doing on the continental level. And as my dear sister in the introduction, she has been very kind in mentioning that I was honored and humbled to be the chair of the African Union Working Group on AI that endorsed the African Union or the African Continental Strategy on AI last year. It was endorsed by our leaders during the African Union Summit, the 38th Summit. One of the important pillars of AI is that we started with is African-centric. This was the main pillar and main principle, that we want an AI ecosystem that addresses Africa, that addresses the African needs. What are one of the challenges that we face in Africa in the adoption of AI applications is that I don't want to say, I will not be diplomatic and say most of the applications that is used in Africa, actually all of the applications that are used in Africa, unfortunately, they're coming from abroad. They're coming from other contexts that do not really represent and address the African needs, the African values, the African principles. So what's very important is data localization. We must use the data that really represents the African context. If we don't have African led applications or AI applications, this will also lead to fading out the use of AI on the continent, because the African citizens, at the end of the day, they will think that those applications are not representing me. They are not really representing my values, my principles. They are not taking my challenges into consideration. So they will just feel that they are discouraged from using it. And this will definitely have a very negative impact on FDIs as well. So African-centric is very important. We must have something. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Not only leave anyone behind, we don't want to leave any place or any area behind. As all of us know that most of our African countries, or actually all of our African countries, we have a big portion of our citizens that are living in rural areas and in countryside. So most of them are unfortunate because they are not really privileged to use and to have access to many of our internet services, telecom services as well. Those are the ones that we have to put in mind. We have to be very mindful of their needs, and they're the ones that should be connected to the internet and to the use of telecom services. Local languages in Africa. And maybe this will be a humble advice as well to the researchers, to the young researchers and the innovators that will be working for the Qubit Hub to take as much as possible into consideration the local languages in Africa. You know, when I was a kid, I used to live in Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso when I was a kid. So not really a kid, like 12 years, 13 years when I was a teenager, early teenager. So me and a lot of others as well think that English and French are the most spoken languages on the African continent. Actually, this is not true. English and French are the least spoken languages on the African continent. In Africa, we have more than 2,300 local languages. So, and they are so much well used than English and French. For example, in Kenya, and of course, I had the honor to visit Kenya multiple times and go to different places in Kenya. People on the streets, they use Swahili. They don't really use English. Yeah, they know how to speak English. A big number of people in Kenya know how to speak English, but English is not really well spoken as Swahili. For example, if you go to Nigeria, English is not as well spoken as or frequently spoken as Fufu, for example. If you come to Egypt, it's Arabic. Of course, a lot of people, they know how to speak English or French even, but it's Arabic. This is our mother tongue. So local languages is very important. AI applications built on our local languages, built on our local needs, our local principles, and addressing our challenges. This is of very importance. So this is my very humble advice that I'll be, if I'm allowed to give to the young innovators and to those who will be working and serving Qubit Hub Launch. I don't want to take so much of your time, because if I'll keep talking about Africa and AI, it will take us days and days, because this is very close. This is a topic very close to my heart. In conclusion, I wish to thank you so much once again, congratulate you on this extraordinary and outstanding efforts and the achievement that you're doing. And definitely, I wish to thank and congratulate Kahala, Angani, and Amini.ai for bringing up their forces together, putting up all their efforts together, and for producing an output which will really benefit Africa and will really have a very positive impact on the socioeconomic development in Africa, and will serve at the end of the day the AU Agenda 2063, which is the developmental agenda of Africa. Thank you so much once again. Congratulations, and I'll be more than happy to further engage with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Safwat. Thank you. All right, next in this wonderfully hybrid event, we have Ambassador Professor Bitange Ndemo. He's the Ambassador of the Republic of Kenya to the Kingdom of Belgium and the European Union. Ambassador Ndemo, if anyone still needs to know, is a globally recognized leader in technology, innovation, and policy. From 2005 to 2013, he served as a PS in the Ministry of Information and Communication, where he spearheaded transformative projects including undersea fiber optic connectivity, liberalization of mobile telephony, the Kenya Open Data Initiative, and the growth of innovation hubs such as iHub and MLab. With all respect, sir, you helped build a lot of the building blocks that have made something as possible like the Qubit Hub. A professor of entrepreneurship at the University of Nairobi, his research focuses on ICT-driven economic development and SME growth. Internationally, he has advised the UN, UNCDF, UNESCO, MIT, and the OECD, and chaired Kenya's Distributed Ledgers and AI Task Force. He is widely recognized as one of Africa's most influential voices on digital transformation. Welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am in Avia. I thought I was to speak earlier, but thank you for the opportunity. And I want to thank you for organizing this, that Africa begins to talk or discuss issues around the emerging tech and how it's going to be disruptive in our environment. I would argue that this is the most consequential time in our life, especially with the advent of AI. AI has disrupted and is going to disrupt everything that we do, and it's important we begin to discuss it in a much more broader way, because we need it everywhere in our lives, especially in rural areas. I say rural areas because this is the tool that we can leverage to fast track achievement of some of the SDGs, which we must realize by the year 2030. Especially if we pick on the SDG 1, which is poverty. It is achievable from some of the studies that have come around, because we can develop a new LLM to help the farmers, especially giving them specific instructions on how to take care of the crops, to take care of animal husbandry, all kinds of things. But at the same time, develop value chains so they can be able to benefit from the emerging tech. Data is very critical in the sense that we can be able to predict rainfall patterns, we can be able to predict consumption patterns or understand them better in such a way that we can maximize the utilization or maximize the benefit from the work that the farmers will be doing in the rural areas. So it's important we begin to spread this not just in the cities, across the villages. Earlier, I wanted to send you a paper I've done on that space, but I can be able to send it to everybody to see the benefit of AI and the data with respect to achievement of SDGs by 2030. That is one of the key areas that would be important, even if we didn't achieve many of those SDGs. Poverty is very critical because it impacts on several other areas of humanity. That's why we are emphasizing that we leverage this to work on that space. Number two, because I have been a member of the Global Learning Council, it is now very clear that with the AI, it is possible to teach students in such a way that cognition is better than we have seen before. And we need to begin to try this, be able to begin to develop the pedagogies around digital pedagogies, be able to have a new generation of people who comprehend knowledge faster than previously and can be able to be more useful in society. This has been demonstrated. This has is being implemented in some areas, and I know in Kenya we are working towards digital pedagogies. We need to give it space in order to get into that space, because if we criticize before we have used the technologies in areas that I've elaborated, then we destroy the benefits that we can achieve in terms of being the first in line in terms of adoption. We have learned from M-Pesa that early adoption, or even before regulatory frameworks comes in, we are able to do much better than those who wait for the regulation, and by the time they come into the space, the other countries are already taken over. Because we have a lot of young people, we can be able to be the first ones and be able to leverage that to deal with the issues that I've said. Health is another big area where we have seen results. I think you have seen some of the studies, rural villages where AI is being used, especially with pregnant mothers, assisting them to know the position of the child, and they are able to recommend that the child can go, the mother should go to hospital because they cannot deliver the child in a normal manner. That has reduced the deaths of mothers. I can't emphasize more that this is the most consequential period in our lives, that we cannot miss it. In as much as we are talking about AI safety, I think we need to allow innovation to take place. We are going to see a lot more innovations, because even if I talk about AI and blockchain, what we are seeing, for example, new regulatory measures that are in the pipeline from European Union towards the countries they work with, in the absence of those two technologies, data, blockchain, AI, we are going to be able to compete. So we may end up impacting on our agricultural sector if we are not able to move into that space in a much faster way. Because I'm on the road, you would allow me to finish there, and perhaps at some point we can get into this space and discuss more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think what I've heard certainly from the speakers and the keynote addresses, it sounds like governments and policymakers are ready, they are open, they are inviting, they certainly understand the urgency around the ability for us to be building, and certainly also understanding the need for inclusive policies and the ability to be inventing for context that is truly ours, and for data sets that are more relevant to our values and what it is that makes sense for our community. So thank you very much. So a small break. Honorable Isaboke, I think you are being requested outside of the room because it would not be a launch without ribbon cutting, and the founding members as well. If you can be excused, and then we'll go to the next panel. We realize we're a little behind on time, and we're going to try and catch it up. All right, so all right, we'll continue. So next we're going to have a panel that's going to allow us to dig deeper into the enabling environment that is required to make Made in Africa AI possible. This panel will be moderated by Mr. Ali Hassan Kasim, CEO, Hussein, I'm sorry, I'm reading as I was told. Gemini didn't catch that one, or it's ChatGPT or DeepSeek. Ali Hussein Kasim, my apologies, sir. CEO of AHK Corp. Ali Hussein is a serial entrepreneur, digital transformation consultant, and leading voice on technology, policy, and regulation in Africa and globally. He hosts #Ali Talks Tech, a podcast exploring the intersection of innovation, business, and policy. He serves on multiple boards, including Old Mutual Investment Group, Longhorn Publishers, KiktaNet, and the Africa FinTech Network, where he is Vice President for Eastern Africa. He also chairs the FinTech Alliance of Kenya and advises Next 176 and Belva Digital. A passionate mentor and investor, Ali actively supports African tech entrepreneurs and drives growth in the continent's innovation and digital economy. Welcome.
It's called Murphy's Law. Good evening, guys. So, without further ado, I'm going to just invite my panelists. I hope we are all here. Professor Bitangendemo, I'm not sure whether he's going to join us, but we'll try. Secretary Ambassador Isaiah Kabira, Diaspora Investment, Skills and Entrepreneurship, Ndugu Karibu. Is Mr. John Mwenda here? John Mwenda? He was here. Okay, we'll proceed. Mr. Oscar Otieno, Deputy Data Commissioner of the Data Protection Commission, ODPC. Karibu, sir. When you receive your invoice for breaching data, this is the guy. Last but not least, my brother Joe Musheru, President Jumo. And of course, the immediate former Cabinet Secretary for ICT. So, guys, yes, thank you. So we are here, first on a light note, guys. Before my sister Grace starts telling me, why is it a manel up here? And the fact of the matter is, it is the women who organize this panel. It's not, it's not the men. Okay, guys, so please do not come after me because we are all men here. as we say in Kiswahili, sisi tuliitwa tukaitika, ama namna gani? For those who don't understand Swahili, I am sorry guys, you just have to use ChatGPT as we talk. So we are here to discuss some interesting stuff, but I have an opening statement, rather an intro to this. And I'm going to do this intro in Kiswahili. Because if we don't start actualizing this conversation around AI in Africa, by starting with language here at Qubit Hub, then surely, what are we doing? Do you guys all agree with me? Okay, and if you float, I'm happy to speak about it in English, but after the Kiswahili opening statement. Are we in agreement? Great.
Should we do it like the church? You say and I
That's a good one. That's a good one. So, hii ni jopo. So jopo is panel, FYI. Hii ni jopo linalokutanisha viongozi mashuhuri wanaounda mustakabali wa akili mnemba Africa. So akili mnemba is AI. It's not akili bandia, FYI. Bandia is fake in Kiswahili, and there's nothing bandia about AI. Wakileta utaalam wa kipekee katika diplomasia, sera, uwezekaji, udhibiti na sekta ya viwanda. Kila mzungumzaji hapa anachangia kwa upekee wake kutoka kwa kukuza ushirikiano wa kidijitali na ubunifu wa diaspora hadi kufungua mitaji wastahimilivu, kulinda data na kukuza masoko jumuishi ya akili mnemba. Pamoja tutajaribu kuchangia njia madhubuti za kujenga mfumo endelevu wa akili mnemba wa Afrika unaojitegemea, ukijikita katika ushirikiano wa kimataifa, uwazi wa udhibiti na ubunifu wa ndani ya bara la Afrika. Do you want me to say this in English? Thank you very much. Let's proceed. Gentlemen, this is a very, for me, it's actually like sort of coming home on this conversation. So when my sister Shiko, although she likes to say, please call me Dr. Shiko, asked me to have this conversation today, I said, why not? Let me just kick off. I think we know the gentleman here, so we don't need introductions, but I think it's always important for me to allow them to just have a quick opening statement. So I will start with my brother at the far end, Isaiah.
Thank you, Ali.
Yes, sir.
How many of you believe that Ali wrote that Swahili statement? Yeah, can you put up your hands? How many think that you went through AI? No, you guys, it's not a fair vote.
Absolutely, it is. But I am a Swahili native speaker. I dare you to speak the way I spoke.
We shall not transform this into a Kiswahili competition, so I will go straight to, thank you very much, Ali. As I was earlier introduced, my name is Ambassador Isaiah Kabira. I'm in charge of diaspora investment, skills transfer, and entrepreneurship in the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. Some 2-3 years ago, a friend of mine had rented out an apartment, his apartment on Riverside. And I once asked him, so who is your tenant? He told me that his tenant is a South Korean citizen. I asked him, what does he do? Because they had become good friends, so he was trying to define exactly what he does. The gentleman said his work is to hang out at places where young Kenyans are. He used to work for Samsung, or still works for Samsung. His responsibility here, he was sent by Samsung to just see what's our thinking like, the African youth.
So the next time you see on the internet that Samsung spends $25 billion on their research, no, some of that money comes here and people hang around here. Why am I saying this? There's something happening in Africa. And I really want to thank Carla for this initiative. I can confirm that they're on the ground. There's a project we are doing with them in Nakuru, where they're trying to empower our young people. There is something beautiful in Africa. And these initiatives just confirm that we need to take steps. By the year 2050, Africa will be a continent of 2.5 billion people. And 1 billion of these people will be in the middle class. I keep saying that anyone who is not thinking about Africa is not thinking about the future. But of course, we have our challenges. Who is driving AI around the world? It is confirmed. It's white male. White male. Just note that about who is driving this process. Some years ago, we used to talk about the digital divide. Unfortunately, if we do not make the right investments, we are going to have an AI divide, whereby our people are left behind. We may not have the resources to invest in big industries like Samsung or Ford Motor, but AI is offering us a big opportunity. I know heavy investments are needed, but this is an opportunity that we cannot afford to lose. Is that an opening statement, Manzango?
Perfect.
Nimesikia Kiswahili sanifu kabisa.
Kabisa.
Asante.
Nimefurahi. Oscar, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Oscar Otieno. Where I come from, I will refrain from attempting to speak in Kiswahili. I'm the Deputy Data Commissioner at the Office of the Data Protection Commission. I'm in charge of investigations and enforcement and complaints. At that office, we generally regulate the processing of personal data. So even as we sit here in this small room, and others have seen them around, we are generating megabytes of personal data. And this is being issued to various platforms, which we all know. So the issue that we really look into, and one of the people who really thought about this is one of my panelists, Waziri, thought that we really need to regulate how this is when they really thought about data being the new oil. So we are there, we are regulating that industry, and we are here to have conversations around AI. So as Ali said, if you get, in the private sector, you call it an invoice. In the public sector, we call it a penalty notice. If you get a penalty notice, most likely, it might have passed through me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Joe, over to you.
Thank you very much. Really great to be here. I've been keeping away from many of these public engagements, so happy that I can come and find a lot of friends, even in government, and I feel very privileged and honored to be part of the panel here to discuss AI and its use. So since I left government, I joined a company called Jumo as president, and has no terms, so I'm there for as long as I need to be. You know, we basically build banking infrastructure for lending. So we see ourselves as a tech fin as opposed to a fintech. And I'll tell you just a bit about it because we use AI, and the impact that AI has and what I have seen is we cannot ignore it, especially on the continent. So basically, as a company, we get money from banks. They're the lender of record, and we use mobile network operators to be able to lend that money to the individual. So as a business, we do the scoring, we build the infrastructure for either USSD or the apps, all the things that they need to do. And the company is 10 years old, and you know, when we started, basically, you collect data first from the operator, and with their permission, mobile money data, calling data, and you use that data to extract different features those features allow you to put them into models, and those models you can use now to do scoring, and you put people into different cohorts and so on. And that data, let's say a feature could be, say, the battery life on your phone. If you're always at 5-10%, then maybe you might not be able to pay your loan. There's all manner of things. And we had a team of people who would spend weeks. They get the data, they go through each item, and then they extract the features. And after about 6 years, we were able to get about 700 features. And we were able to get to about 6% default, which is still quite good.
But it's pretty low considering 20% on average in the traditional banking sector. Yeah. It's pretty low. Well done.
Yeah. So we got there. And then about 3 years ago, we introduced AI. So we would feed this data into the AI system. It was taking 2 hours. The previous team, the humans, were taking about 2 weeks. AI, 2 hours for the full data. AI was able to extract from that data 17,000 features. Humans were doing 700, AI got 17,000 features, and improved our non-performing loans on first loan to 4%, and on loan 3 and above to about 2.5%, which is quite something on $1.5 billion that you are lending on an average of maybe $50 to $100. So it's many loans, over 250 million loans that we've done. If we're not careful with AI, it can actually replace a lot of jobs. But it can also give us a lot of efficiency, a lot of improvement, because as a result, we are able to open in many new markets, we're able to expand, and the business is able to grow so much more. And the reason I'm giving you these numbers, it's because if we ignore it, especially on the continent, then we're going to be lost. So I join the panelists here in saying that AI is core to everything that we do, and we must participate. And so I congratulate Carla, I congratulate Angani, and what are they called?
Qubit Hub.
No, Amini, sorry, for actually setting up Qubit, because this is one of the most important maybe investments that is being done for us here on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Isaiah, Oscar, and Joe. Joe, curious, what happened to those humans?
They pivoted into some other things.
So they actually enhanced their job.
So they went now into maybe sourcing more data, but they were not doing the processing now. Now you source the data, you know what you need, and then they put into the system.
So basically job enhancement.
To some degree, but 1 or 2 left.
Interesting. Ambassador Isaiah, the African AI ecosystem is like actually the whole tech ecosystem, not just AI, is suffering from brain drain. I think we heard the founder of Amini speak a little bit about that. As the diaspora ministry, we know that diaspora is bringing in quite a bit of money. I think the latest numbers I have was about $4.5 billion, $5 billion. And that's just the official numbers. What are we doing from a policy perspective to attract back the top talent in Kenya who are working in big tech, in other companies, in founding their own technology companies? What's the conversation there? How about you?
Thank you, Ali. Before I answer your question, there's something that Joe has mentioned about the inevitability of AI and how we cannot afford to ignore it. He has given very practical examples. I'll just go back to history. For those of you who studied accounts many years ago, You remember that we were never allowed to go to the examination room with a calculator. Can you imagine? Because, and then it came up to the minds of the examiners that a calculator is a basic tool of accounting. I also remember the Kenya Bankers Association calling on a nationwide strike when banks began computerizing. Can you imagine? Computerizing. And they said, no, they stayed away from work for 2 days. We now are getting our money from the ATMs, and there was hue and cry. When I was a banker, December 31st was one of our most exciting days because we had to work overnight to try and close the books of the bank because it was all manual. Yeah, and here we are trying to computerize, and people are against it. And of course, we were paid overtime when people were spending their money on New Year's Eve as we were busy working, and we knew that we'd get a 10% salary increase in the month of January. Today, an MD of a bank goes to bed knowing exactly how his books look like. He knows his profitability.
No end of day.
No, not end of day. It's by hour.
No end of day.
There's no end of days. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how technology is changing. And that's why Joe is challenging us. We cannot ignore in any way what AI is doing. I attended an AI conference a few weeks ago in the UK just to try and remove my illiteracy of AI. And they were talking about marking of exams through AI. And we were told that when they did a comparison, the variance between AI examined results and those of a human being were 2 to 3%. But the variance between two human beings was 7%. But AI was correct to that point. So what must we do to embrace AI? I work with the diaspora. Part of my responsibility is to try and encourage them to invest back home. And what we are trying to do is what we call diaspora-centric products. We all know that in the last 20 years, the diaspora has rushed a lot, especially in the real estate market. But of course, we have seen a plateau in that, and they keep asking us, where are the new business opportunities? These people have pulled a lot of resources. They have pulled a lot of resources, and they are ready to invest. You people just need to have bankable projects that they can really invest in. I'm happy you've spoken about brain circulation, because we are trying to avoid the issue of brain drain, just as we nowadays talk about labor mobility, not labor migration. Because of the connotations that labor migration has, we're talking about labor mobility. So for us, we are seeing an end-to-end cycle in the labor mobility issue. When our people go out there seeking opportunities, we know they're not going forever. They are going to gain skills that will benefit our country. As previous speakers said, every diasporian's heart is here. It doesn't matter under what circumstances they left. It's always their wish to come back home one day. So the language, the conversation we're having with them is, what can you do for your country? Where are the bankable projects? I don't want to come home and be a beggar. I want to come home and ensure that I have invested in valuable projects. So I encourage a lot of you to have this conversation, but please, we have to reduce the trust deficit. And that's why as a Department for Diaspora, we've created something we are calling the Diaspora Investment Support Office, where we want to walk the journey of investments, because we all know how many Kenyans in the diaspora have gotten conned. So we want to walk the journey with them so that to make sure when they come back home, the project is there. You can touch it, you can feel it, and you can smell it. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I think I've learned something new today. Brain circulation. For 1 minute, I was thinking about, did he mean blood circulation or brain circulation? But I get you now. We are on the same page. Oscar. The Office of the Data Protection Commission. When you send us these invoices, And anyway, really on a serious note, Qubit's core is enabling AI, entrepreneurship, innovation, bringing the ecosystem together. And I'm really, really glad that we had a speaker from Belgium, Ambassador Professor Bitangendemo, one from Egypt, one from Lesotho, which is really great. So we are talking about data sets, open data sets. How do we balance the conversation around open data sets and huge amounts of data, and quite a lot of this data is personal, and the importance of protection? How are we navigating this together? Back to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ali, for that question. If you look at the role of government in terms of data protection and data privacy, is our good PS for broadcasting and telecommunications said that the role of government is to provide an enabling environment under which Qubit and the other partners can operate freely. And that's why we get those, yeah. So really the work of the government in creating this environment is to come up with those legal and regulatory frameworks. And you can really see the Office of the Data Protection is a good example. From those who conceived it, I can tell you, and Waziri will tell you, that the Data Protection Act was enacted in 2019. And with the good support of the government that time, ICT being steered by Waziri Msheru, he was able to bring up a task force that was able to do the regulations. Actually, they were able to appoint the first data commissioner 1 year later in 2020. A year later, 3 sets of regulations were already formed. The general regulations.
That was quite an achievement.
That was quite an achievement, and it was due to the support of the government. So let's not look at government as the person with the whip. It's really providing a good environment for you to thrive, for Qubit and every other person to thrive. So that is really what happened. And in 2022, the first cohort was recruited. I was amongst them, and I made sure that year I had to do a whip, at least one, so that people get to know that there's somebody now in town and is regulating this personal data. Yeah. Thanks so much. But if you look at now the context under which you're asking the interoperability, at Africa level, first of all, we want to say that there is what we call the Malabo Convention, which is basically a convention on cyber security and data privacy. So it is really important that for us to talk in one spirit, the way Dr. Shiko said, for us to talk as one unity, as an Africa, and be viewed as Africa, then we really need to now maybe ratify this convention so that we are seen as one regional bloc. But nevertheless, we are at different stages of formation. We have also heard from one of the speakers before, whom within their jurisdiction, they are thinking of now forming the Data Protection Authority. That is a good step. Others are at the stage of doing their laws, others are at the stages of doing their regulations. If we get that, then we can answer that question. But then how do we get that? How do we talk as one, in one voice as Africans? Some of the things that we can do is maybe retreat each country to do what they need to do. Like Botswana is right now, from what we've heard from the PS, doing the right things of forming that Data Protection Authority. Kenya on our side, we are doing the right thing. If you'd ask me, maybe forming regional blocks, approaching it in terms of regional economic blocks, would make us get there faster. For example, right now, within the East African community, there is a consultancy sponsored by World Bank, which is currently ongoing. With this, we are trying to harmonize all the laws within the East Africa. If we can be able to harmonize that within East Africa, the ECOWAS does the same, SADC and all the other regional blocks, then it will really be easy for Africa now then to come and harmonize their data protection laws and all that. So now we can be seen as one. And you heard from the speaker from Egypt, we can now start talking about data localization and demanding the space within the AI. But now back home, what are we doing to balance all these? Well, there's lots of things that we're doing in terms of within our mandate. For example, number one, the law requires that if you are collecting and processing personal data for whatever reason, even if it is for purposes of AI, then you need to register with the Data Protection Commission. So we don't want, whether these bills are Kenyan or East Africa or they are companies coming from outside, the government wants to have that view and get to know and understand who is there, what data are you collecting, how are you processing it. You may understand from maybe one of the startups that came from, I think it was America or Europe, that was collecting Kenyans' personal data and using it for their own models. So we really need to be in that space. We are required to register, like now Qubit, Color, we get to know who is out there. Then now periodically we can also within the mandate do inspections, we can do compliance audits just to get to know that yes indeed you said this is the data that you're collecting, this is how you're processing it. Then we can now be sure that this is being done within the right framework and within the law, and maybe issues to do with assessments and all that. So that is how now we will really balance. We allow you to do your space and we also regulate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Oscar. I think I completely align with that. Joe, to you now. From your leadership in government, and before that in private sector, and now again in private sector and specifically in fintech, I think you're in a very interesting and unique position, having worked in private sector, worked in government, and now in private sector. How do you see the private sector driving more innovation in the AI space, and how do we collaborate with government without necessarily, rubbing each other the wrong way, and ensuring that we actually have the interest of the country and the continent at heart?
Thank you. I think first, listening to the PS, it is good to know that the government itself is aligned and we are all aiming towards the same goal, that we don't want to be left behind as far as AI is concerned, and that if our citizens are not part of this AI revolution, even Professor Ndemo has indicated, this is, it's life-changing. So if majority of our people are not part of it, then we're going to lose in many ways. So part of the collaboration is to make sure we put together all the key players. So the network owners, the people who are connecting individuals so that they can be able to access the data or access the AI, solutions. They need to be at the table. The cloud services providers who are doing, the compute as well as the storage, they need to be at the table. The government with the data commissioners and other people who have a lot of sources of data need to also come to the table so that everybody can agree on how to harness all this value that is there. The current challenge is a lot of data is private. And because it is private, then maybe that company can try and use it for themselves. I say that knowing that we do not share our scoring data. And many companies are doing the same. So I'm not saying that we should all just share. Data is almost IP. AI, at its basic form is data over time. So the more data 100%. You have, the more you're able to use. So at what point can we all come together and say, these specific sets of data should actually be made public and people can use to be able to get, to the next level, whether it's agricultural data, whether it's health data or finance data, and all the way to education. I'm convinced that AI will really help us be able to identify who is the best person to come and solve maybe a job opening, an opportunity that you have as we go on. But we must collaborate. Trying to do this alone, you're going to go, nowhere. And we must also then work with the government to make sure that investments are being done. If in terms of connectivity, say a third of the population don't even have access to a mobile phone, then what happens to them? So everybody is going to continue to grow based on the data that they have, and the information poverty that they will have will become a problem for everybody going forward. So it's finding ways to collaborate, and what is great about Qubit is that there's a lot of research that will be done. That research will produce papers that everybody can look at and collaborate and say, this makes sense, can we all come together and, and make it happen? So Amini, Angani, Kala have come together. They are showing us exactly how we should see this collaboration. And it's great to see how much of government was also present, because it means there's a lot of support, even from the government, to make this a success. Hubs are important, but people also need to talk. We need to get more events where people engage and just discuss these issues. Otherwise, if we continue in the silos where we are producing our own data, we will have challenges. Thank you.
Joe, thank you so much. I think what you've said is so crucial. And on that note, I really want to open up this conversation to everybody in this room. Based on what we have spoken here today, and one of the things that I love to talk about in gatherings like this, to give an example, if we as citizens don't engage with government, then what happens? There's no feedback loop, right? So if Joe here talked about being at the table, Oscar spoke about collaboration, Ambassador Isaiah spoke about the diaspora not really being diaspora. They're here with us, especially regarding with connectivity today, and he spoke to us about brain circulation, not blood circulation. So I want to open this conversation up here today because, if you walk into a restaurant, you have three choices. You are either serving the food everybody else is eating, you are the one paying the bill to eat the food, or guess what? You're on the menu being eaten. So do you want to be on the menu being eaten, or do you want to be at the table eating? Open conversations, guys. Anyone with a burning question, anyone with a burning comment, anyone who just wants to tell Joe and I, why are we wearing sneakers instead of we are techies? Exactly. Please feel free. Somebody up there, please introduce yourself and your name, where you come from, if it's Nairobi, wherever, and then tell us. Hi.
I'm here to confuse all of you. So my name is Jennifer. I work with children. And we are launching a report next week.
Are you sure you're not Shiko?
Yes, I'm Shiko. Thank you.
I know you will hit me on that one later.
I'll get you. So we are launching a report next week, and we did a research on children and AI. The cheat code here: children are not using AI to cheat exams or to do their homework. They're using it to create. Okay? I was hoping I'll get...
Could you expound on that, please? Because I have such an interesting example on that. Expound on that.
So in terms of creating, they're using Canva to create posters. They're using Singmore. If you know, there's an AI called Singmore, to writing music and to do DJ. They're doing storybooks, okay? So they're doing all type of stuff. They're not using it for cheating. So for us, we did that research thinking they're going to cheat. Something number one is going to come out is cheating, but they're not using it to cheat.
So is this Gen Alpha or is it Gen Z?
Gen Alpha and Gen G. Below, it was 13 to 17-year-olds.
Gen Alpha.
Yeah, 13 to 17-year-olds. So my question is, I was hoping government would be here.
Government is here.
Oh, there's government. Hey, government. How you doing? Sorry. I thought you guys are not.
Sirkal is here.
Yeah, I am sorry. I'm sorry. So my question is, how can we create an enabling environment to allow these children who are creating? I saw a child create a whole website in a record 2 days. like a functioning website in a record 2 days. How can we enable children, create an environment where children are able to create using AI? I know someone said earlier we don't say safety, but they are safe, because the other thing that is coming out from that research is the biasness, the lack of insensitivity to cultural and African nuances. So how can we be able to ensure? I love what Dr. Joe, right?
From your
said,
mouth to God's ears.
AI is data over time. So how to ensure that this data, that when our children are going online, they're seeing more of themselves and they're not being discouraged to use it because they're not seeing themselves. I'll just give an example. One child told us, you just Google and then you say, generate an African child, and it comes out a white child with Masai shuka. So how can we be able to create an environment to ensure that children are able to engage well in that environment? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, especially when it comes to children. Who wants to take that?
Yes, I can try.
Yeah, please go.
Thank you, Shiko, for that. I think Doctor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's
Dr.
not.
Shiko.
Dr. Shiko.
No.
All right. Really? Accepted. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, thank you for that. I think when we were having during these conversations, I've said that. The role of government is to provide an enabling environment under which we can all thrive, yeah? And it's good that you've mentioned about that research. I look at it maybe in 3 ways. Maybe the first thing is collaborations. If you have done this research, the government has an open door policy. You can come, we can discuss these findings if you want to make it maybe not really public, but you want some areas under which we can have a conversation. You can come, we can discuss it. And then with this, I'm looking at it in terms of assisting not just you, but the entire industry in coming up with guidelines. So we can do guidelines too, maybe for minors using AI, and another guidelines and that are specific to the entire AI industry. So with these kind of guidelines, we can maybe have that one conversation. And then maybe lastly is during this process as we go towards the tail end. Nowadays within the Constitution of Kenya, it's very all-inclusive. We will not just post it and put it down onto you through your throats. We will have public participations. So we'll have forums such as these. We'll show you the kind of guidelines that we are coming up with that is specific on children or minors in AI and all that. Then we will get more views from other stakeholders in different sectors. So with that, we can be able to build an ecosystem that supports the kind of work that your research was addressing. Thank you.
Can I just add
please.
that from a private sector point of view, sometimes it's better to go ahead of even government, as Professor Ndemo said.
Most of the time.
Because you might find a lot more challenges with new laws and regulations that you've not actually tested. So it's good to also get the private sector to really get the reports and see what can they do to enhance, improve, monetize, innovate. Because with that, then government can come and intervene in terms of the regulations. I think the base laws are there, you know, whether it's child protection, child labor, all those laws are already in place. It's the nuances of, you know, the innovations that you're going to do that need to be taken into account. So I would say it's a responsibility not just for government, but even for private sector to lead and government to come in and support with regulation.
Absolutely. Any comments from you,
Just a small comment. I think you'll all agreed that AI is inevitable. I gave the example of the calculator among accountants a long time ago. That became a standard operating tool of accounting. AI is going to become standard. I think the word plagiarizing is soon going to end, because we all have information, we all have tools that we never had. I once made a career of writing speeches. Nowadays, you can write blah, 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 and then you just say the subject, and you have a beautiful speech. I will not give the examples of architecture and all that. So how do we bring up our kids to be thinkers, for example? Because AI is destroying our thought process. We're becoming lazy. But yet we know there's no reverse gear on this. There's no reverse gear on calculators, on computers. There will be no reverse gear on AI. What will differentiate the child of 5-10 years' time? You all had access to this tool called AI. When that child goes for an interview for a job, he has all the information that everybody else has. What is it that will differentiate that child? So the earlier we begin really having a conversation about it, and how to use that AI to empower our people to be different. Yeah? And again, as I said earlier, AI is being driven by white male. Yeah? How do we ensure that we don't get back to the digital divide that we had? How do we preempt an AI divide? We have the tools. Yeah? We all know what happens to a lot of us at the airport. You go to the airport, they scan you, and definitely you look like your brother. Because those face recognition tools were never made with us in mind. They were made through other points of research. Yeah? So how do we become slightly ahead? How do we get the investments into AI? Because at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to investments. And that's why I'm happy that Ali asked me about the diaspora. We even have a chance to connect with the second, third generation of Kenyan diaspora, for example, or African diaspora out there, who may never have had an interest in our country. How can we use AI to make them more interested in their countries of origin? Because very soon, right now, sorry, Ali, but we are very happy that diaspora is our biggest source of remittances at $5 billion as of 30th June this year. But we are getting that money because people in the diaspora are sending money to their mothers, to their aunties, to their uncles. The next generation. The aunties, the uncles are back there. So how do we interest them? How do we use AI as a tool to interest future generations of Africans to still have an interest in their country? I'm happy that the issue of language has been spoken. Ali told us it's 2,300 languages in Africa. So yes, let's have this conversation with our kids back home. Asante.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. So I have been told that we need to wrap up because we are running behind. So I'll take one other question or comment. I will pass you because you were here. I'm sorry. Yes, Mbugwanji here. And please keep it simple because I know you can go on and on.
Asante. I'll keep it simple. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Name is Mbugwanji here. Who will bail the cat? Joe talks from a corporate lens and says public sector should go faster than government. Unfortunately, government also has handcuffs. On the other hand, from the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, many of these very same enterprises are using your office as a crutch. We're here at Qubit, and we need data to create value. But when you speak to owners of first-party data, they tell you, oh, I can't do this or I can't share this with you because of the Data Protection Act. So who will bail the cat? Because my hypothesis is, in as much as you are sending remittances back home and it's 5 billion, if we simply increase the value that you create from first-party data, the new businesses and the new revenue that will generate on the continent will probably be 10x that. Who will bail the cat? Is it the ODBC to work with us so that we are speaking to Jumo and Company X? You actually say, we can do this at Qubit under the oversight of the ODBC to create value, almost a sandbox, not quicksand. So that's my challenge to you. Who moves fast in this regard, Asante?
I told you guys what will happen when Bugwa
Can I attempt?
Yes, please go ahead.
Because the laws exist. So if I want data from, say, Angani, I can go get the license, they have a license, then we will be allowed to actually work together, because then we've been set up and we're now going to be held to account if anything happens where the data is not used properly. So I think the systems that have been set up are supposed to enable for, I think innovation to happen, but sometimes we slow down. So companies can go and actually get the license, whether they want to be processors. And once you have it, you're protected. And I'll go back when the central bank some time back decided they wanted to shut down all the digital lenders. And they were saying it's because of the way people were behaving. You're calling someone's maybe mother-in-law, he hasn't paid, all manner of drama. But when central bank did their research, they found out that this is a very important area, and so they came out with a license. So anyone that is licensed then has to follow these rules, and then it became so much easier to actually get the sector going. And I think we are going to be in the same kind of situation, that he will come with fines if you don't actually go to him first and say, I want data from X that I want to use. So for instance, for us, we go get data from the MNOs. But in order to use that data, we need their permission and also the permission of the user. The customer that wants to take the loan has to actually approve for us to use their data. So I think the obligation is on all of us, including the customers that we want to serve.
Spot on. I think I want to wrap it up, unless you have something you want to add on to what Joe has said.
Actually, I'm really impressed. It's like he read the law back to back.
But he was the one who was there. Have you forgotten?
There are most waziris who are there, but I don't want to comment. Actually, what Waziri is saying is, data controllers, let's get into data sharing agreements. The data is all out there. Thank you, Waziri.
So let me just maybe add something onto that. Then we wrap it up with closing remarks. So I think what my brother Mbugo is probably alluding to is this at scale, using APIs at scale. So how do we get to that point? And I think we already have some examples. The PSD2 in the in Europe, which sort of opened up open finance for the whole world, sharing of data. And it killed the conversation that, sorry, if there's any banker here, this is my pet peeve with bankers, and anybody who says, I have X number of customers, you don't own me, I'm sorry, you don't own me. You can't tell me you own me because, I'm your customer. No, I'm your customer at the point where we share value. I get value from you and you get value from me. Yeah, and so that whole ecosystem around open finance, which Joe has already spoken about, is so important, and it's data-based. And we're already starting to see what is happening. So I think, Bugwa, that cut of yours has already been built. Bottom line. So closing statements. Let's start with Ambassador Isaiah.
Thank you, Ali. We must not lose the AI race. We must not allow for the AI divide. People from other parts of the world are harvesting our data with like we are in a pond. We talk so much about data protection. I'm not challenging. I work for government, but our data has been harvested out there. And this is a question as my final comment, so that maybe it can also be replied to. People are gaining from our data. What do we have to show in return? Lastly, it's about investments. I want to encourage you to reach out to Africans in the diaspora. They're looking for new age industries, new age sectors. AI is definitely one, and I encourage you to tap into them. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Oscar.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for that feedback. We take it positively. Maybe just as a parting shot is to assure Kenyans that government is not there to stifle innovation. Please innovate, innovate, innovate. We've been taken around, we've seen various labs there. Innovate, but don't hide. Come up, tell us that this is what we have. Maybe at some point we are also thinking of having a data privacy regulatory sandbox. And it's not there to scare you, it's there to build your solutions. So please do the much that you can do, and the government is there to support you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joe?
Yeah, I think mine is to ask Dr. Shiko and the Qubit, members. Not all of us are technical, even though we've done degrees, but we don't all do research. But please invite us for a cup of tea. We can even sponsor, so that we come and have this kind of conversation with the real things going on, because we shouldn't just be meeting ad hoc like this. And then now you have to launch something for us to meet again. No, maybe this hub should have a place for people who just want to come and hang out, discuss, and they may want to sponsor coffee or tea or something harder if it's necessary. And it will work for all of us. Because I think if we don't talk, if we don't share these ideas and information and what is going on, innovation will be stifled. And the issues that we face will not be managed. And please make sure you invite government as well into that. Some may fear to come, but eventually everybody will enjoy that space. Thank you.
That is so important. Shiko, this is Dr. Shiko. This is how Qubit Hub Happy Hour is born. We are starting after this. Fantastic. 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 So as we come to the close of this Jopo, there's just something I want to say about education and AI, because my sister there said something very, very crucial about our children and what they're doing and how are we letting them use AI. So, interesting story. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited to speak to university students from 4 different universities in Kenya at Strathmore on fintech issues. But then the conversation inevitably moved into AI. So students from a university in Canada, then 3 universities in Kenya. Honestly, I shall not mention them because I was so embarrassed. But the conversation started about why are we not being allowed to use AI in our universities? And one of the lecturers, I didn't know less, was like, we will never allow AI in this university. It's cheating. It's, it's at that basic level that we are discussing. So one student from Canada stood up and said, it's interesting we're having this conversation. 3 years ago, one of our lecturers at Dean was, it was good because it was a Canadian talking, not the Kenyan. One of our deans was speaking exactly like you were speaking. We were never allowed, right? Then it moved to partial being allowed. Then it was opened up. Today, we have lecturers showing us how to use AI to further our education. 3 years. That complete change. So, guys, we are the starting point of fintech, of mobile money, not in Africa, in the world. How can we be left behind with AI? That's our challenge here today. Thank Thank you guys very much for giving us your time. And Dr. Shiko is sponsoring drinks.
Before you leave the stage, go ahead, Madhani. Just a quick thank you, a Qubit thanks. And if you may stay for a quick photo. All right, in the interest of keeping things moving, who's taking the photo? Okay. So out of curiosity, as they take the photo, how many of you identify as government or policy? You're in the policy space. No? How many of you are, okay, it was a very polite hand up. How many of you consider yourself developers? Okay. How many of you are researchers? Just want to get a gauge of who's in the room. Okay. How many of you are, who have I missed from the, is that researchers, policymakers, developers, ecosystem enablers? Yay! Qubit Hub, everyone put their hands up. Okay. All right, fantastic. All right, now we are going to move to, because remember, this is an opportunity to hear from the ecosystem. We're now moving to researchers. Leading this panel is Nanjera Sambuli. Nanjera is a researcher, and please come up, Nanjera, thank you. Nanjera is a researcher, policy analyst, and strategist studying the unfolding gendered impacts of digitalization, ICT adoption, welcome, on governance, diplomacy, media, entrepreneurship, and culture, especially in Africa. She's a non-resident scholar and previously a fellow in the Technology and International Affairs program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and a Ford Global Fellow. She's a board member at Development Gateway, Digital Impact Alliance, and a diplomacy moderator at the Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator, and sits on the International Advisory Board on the EPFL's Essential Tech Center. Over to you, Nanjera.
Good evening. I feel like I should give you guys a second to just stretch as I invite my panelists to join me on stage. I know it's getting a bit crusty in here. So everyone just sort of do a wave or some stretch them, because I want you to listen to the researchers. I need the energy to come back. As I invite Dr. Melissa, Dr. Grace Githaiga, and Dr. Lawrence to join me on stage, and Dr. Elder, as we give everyone a moment. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Karibuni sana. I'm just confirming that is Dr. Elder with us? Yes, there she is. Oh, shame. They did not have enough seats. There is a seat. This is a metaphor for when they do not have a seat for you, pull up a chair in the meeting and in the conversation. So welcome to this conversation about voices from the ecosystem. And guys on the other side, we're going to need some for them to listen. I hope you're now a bit refreshed and some energy has come back. And so these esteemed scholars here are going to talk to us about what they're seeing and the perspectives that they have to offer to this community that we're building together. I'll introduce them briefly because reading their bios would take us a while and they're very accomplished. To my left here is Dr. Melissa Densmore, who's an associate professor, computer science, School of Information Technology at the University of Cape Town. She leads the Human Computing Interface Lab, I believe? Interaction Lab and the Hasso-Plattner Institute Research School, wow, at UCT in ICT4D. Her research looks at community-based digital innovation for maternal and child health and community wireless networks, nice. Next to her is Dr. Lawrence Ndero, who said he was the token mill? It's okay, it's a new normal, mtazoea. Dr. Lawrence is a chairman and lecturer at Department of Computing at JKUAT, that's the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. He's the chair of the Department of Computing and the founder of J-Hub Africa, which is a digital innovation hub in Kenya, and a co-founder of the Green Digital Innovation Hub. He holds a PhD in computer science, specializing in AI and machine learning, with expertise in fuzzy logic, we'd love to hear what that means, generative AI, and digital twin technologies. Then next to Him is Dr. Gigi, as I call her in short, Dr. Grace Githaiga, who's the CEO of Kicternet. How many are members of Kicternet? Or who is not a member? That's your homework. Ali will be pleased. Kicternet has really been a space, and she's the CEO and convener of this multi-stakeholder ICT policy and regulation advocacy think tank that has really gathered us virtually in spaces to discuss a lot of these things and the antecedents. In addition to her role at Kicternet, she's a respected advocate for public interest in tech policy, stakeholder engagement, digital rights, and broader human rights. And last but not least is Dr. Elda Onsomu, who's the acting executive director of KIPRA. Now, KIPRA is the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis. She provides strategic leadership in public policy research and analysis and institutional capacity development in public policy making processes, while supporting the government of Kenya and other stakeholders in policy formulation and implementation, with the overall aim of contributing to the achievement of national development goals. So it's an honor to have you all here today. Starting with you, Dr. Melissa, in your work, how have you approached translating insights from participatory and ethnographic research, and maybe you can just quickly explain to folks what those nice sounding words mean, into scalable tech solutions for bandwidth constrained, and marginalized communities, and what lessons could we learn to help strengthen Africa's research to impact pipeline?
I think each of your questions planned would easily take me 20 minutes to respond to, but there's obviously a very lovely reception happening, waiting for us outside. I'll try to be brief. And I think when we say participatory research or ethnographic work, we're talking about, talking to people and communities and not trying to reduce them to numbers, not necessarily trying to talk to as many people as possible, but to talk to a few people in depth to understand what's going on. And I've always believed that it's important to interleave qualitative and quantitative research, because often when we're doing quantitative research, we're asking the wrong questions and we don't understand the outliers. And we need the qualitative research to really actually understand what questions we should be asking in the first place. And so when I do community research, I actually don't necessarily come in with a particular problem that I want to solve. I come in with a skill set that I have and a skill set that they have, and we identify what's all problems to solve together. That makes it very, very difficult for my poor PhD students that apparently have to defend a research proposal and have a problem statement before they even talk to anybody in the community. And so there are research cultures around that. But you've asked about how to do that, take what we've learned and scale it. Why are we always asking for scale when we understand that, even Swahili is not spoken the same in every country or even in every community within the country of one country? We know that, there are many, many dialects, that they're spoken different ways, there's different vocabularies. Even within the same community, the youth will use a different language or a different dialect or a different vocabulary than the elderly within the community. And so, why are we trying to make one Swahili model that works for everybody? Why are we trying to make something that works across the globe when actually what we were finding is people want to connect with people across languages, but they also want to connect with people within their own community. And so I do think scale is important because we want to make it high impact, right? There's a developer that says, I want to have 1 million users or 1 billion users for my app. And that's what we mean by scale. But what does it mean to have 1 billion users if you're only making them more addicted to phones? So I think about what you mean by scale. But at the same time, I have struggled to take what we do in universities and make it usable in the marketplace. And the fact is that universities don't have software development houses that can maintain software, right? And so for that to work, we need really strong tech transfer offices. Yeah. And I think I was chatting with Mutoni briefly earlier, and I was saying, look, a complete and full tech transfer or research and innovation office at a university is really different for every university. UCT has a very good tech transfer office for South Africa, probably the best that we have, and yet it doesn't have incubator spaces like Qubit. It doesn't have infrastructure to support our innovators. What we can do is connect them to what little resources are available in South Africa in terms of seed grants and funders and other things, but it's definitely not the same as what you get in Silicon Valley. So what does that mean for us? Well, I mean, we need tech transfer offices that actually are not thinking about things only in terms of funding in the way it's done in Silicon Valley. We need African streams of innovation. That means our tech transfer offices need to understand open source paradigms, need to understand social impact as part of our deliverables, as what we're achieving, as something that is of value to the university. We need better innovation ecosystems, so innovation in terms of like how do we support patents and copyrights and encourage people to innovate, right? Which isn't always patents and copyrights. It could be open source, but maybe open source doesn't encourage people. But we need to understand this better and mature it and actually create one that is well-suited to the Kenyan ecosystem, well-suited to the South African ecosystem, and well-suited to us sharing the knowledge with each other in whether it's the spirit of Ubuntu or Sankofa or whatever you want in terms of African traditions. Think about like what are our values in terms of sharing knowledge and prompting innovation. And I think we need an ecosystem that recognizes our talents. I think for so long, and I've complained about this briefly, that like we're in an ecosystem where you can do really, really good work, and then you bid for a project, and then your government awards that project to the UK company instead of the local company, purely because they trust international, and honestly, nobody ever got fired for hiring the UK company, whereas they might. For doing it the other way. And you know, this is completely discounting all of the corruption about bribes and all of these contracts. Like, we need an ecosystem that recognizes African innovation for being amazing and wonderful and actually better suited to African circumstances and problems than the stuff coming from outside.
100%. So hard to agree there. Thank you so much for that. And for the impassioned explanation there. Sticking with the academic thread for a bit, Dr. Nderu, tell us, what are your thoughts around, what are some of the opportunities for universities to build, the question says sustainable AI research ecosystems, but I think it's really even just research ecosystems that are, translating into real world solutions for sectors like health and agriculture.
First of all, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I think to start with, Ari said that our universities are scaring students into the using of AI. I think I come from Jomo Kenyatta. We don't scare our students. In fact, we encourage them to really innovate in that space. Yeah. So thank you. So one of the things that, to answer your question is, I read an innovation hub that is called J-Hub Africa, and what we're doing is trying to encourage innovations to come up. We are members. We have joined some of the societies like Ask. We also belong to the AfriLabs and those groups, trying to encourage students to think about innovation. And I would also want to congratulate the team, Dr. Shiko and the team here, for starting such a hub. We will be able to work with them because we are also another hub that we are working with the innovations, encouraging young people, because we are in an ecosystem that is very rich. I think the way I see it is, and I think this is something that I can never substitute for. The student that I work with, for me, they are geniuses. And they're geniuses because if I look at the problems that I throw at them, and what they come up with, the ideas that they come up with, what I need is support for me to be able to nurture these innovations. Think about it this way. We decided to do a curriculum change. When I became the chairman, I decided that one of the things I am looking at is sustainable development education. Instead of students being told to do an assignment, they get the grade, they walk away, and then they go tammacking. You know that series. You get an A at the fourth year project, because usually curriculums in computer science specifically have that component of practical. Then once you are done, you exit and you go tammacking, looking for a job. Well, for sure, you had built a solution that you would have somehow taken further to be a creator or an owner of that business solution. So when we realized that, our curriculum, we started by engaging the industry. we engaged the industry heavily, trying to ask them, what should we do so that our curriculum is focused on sustainable development? And we changed that curriculum in the computer science and also in the computer technology courses that we offer. Then we introduced aspect of innovation as a mainstream part of it. So a student in second year starts working on an innovation, on an idea. My thinking is that this person may not become this company may not become the unicorn at the end, but that is my dream, of course. But even if it doesn't become a unicorn, the person are built through the journey is a different type of a person. The way they think, the way they come to these meetings, I come with them to meetings like this, they interact with CEOs, they interact with government, they interact with leaders, they interact with people who are doing great things. That person is a different person in terms of the way they think. So what I'm saying here is that what we need is to be enabled as ecosystem builder within the university, because this environment is very rich. We cannot continue telling people that they will finish the university, get a first class, and get employed. Well, for sure, they would get a very satisfactory life by being founders or owners of those businesses. Thank you.
Wonderful. Look at the passion from the universities, guys. The recipes are safe. The recipes are safe, you know. Switching gears a little bit to the think tanks and starting with Dr. Gigi. You know, from your experience, and it's a vast experience in especially digital rights advocacy, what are you seeing as some gaps between academic research on, for example, technology-facilitated gender-based violence and policy development, and how can researchers better influence regulatory frameworks?
Thanks so much, Nanjira, and I'm really glad to be here at an opportune time, because this really is a time that we at Kiktanet have been looking at some of the issues that have been raised, and we really look forward to working with the hub, especially when it comes to gender-based violence, technology-facilitated gender-based violence, and especially how AI is being used to enhance that. And what is even worrying us is that next year, 2026 and 2027, as we get into elections, well, we hope we will, if that technology is going to be used, and AI is going to even be used to further get women out of elective processes. What we have also, Nigeria, now to your question, one of the things that we have realized as people who research as practitioners is that there's a gap between academia, what academia is researching, and what we are researching. When you research in academia, and I can speak now in my days in academia, you know, you are told you need to publish in a journal. That journal, nobody reads it. Then they dismiss your research that you do as an academic. But for us, when we do our research, we disseminate, and we disseminate highly. So we use social media, we call for webinars, and we are able to speak to the people that are affected. What have we found out about that? Is that gender, there are so many gender studies, but they lack technology component. There are so many, there are legal studies that look at what frameworks would protect women, but they don't have the technology component. And then we are there saying, we want frameworks that protect women. We want policy frameworks that protect women, that allow women to operate safely on online spaces. And so we have realized that there needs to be that interdisciplinary approach into the research, so that we are combining gender, we are combining tech, we are combining law, and then so that we avoid that silo, conducting research in silos. The other gap that we have found out is the issue of language and accessibility. Now, I don't know how many of you saw that somebody said all these UN studies that are generated, the World Bank studies, and there are so many, only 14% are read. Not even read, I guess downloaded. And when you download, you don't prove that you have read that study. So what does that mean? Again, the issue of accessibility. They have very good studies, because as a researcher, again, we engage in that. They have fantastic researches, but how many people are seeing that? And how many people have access to those journals? So it's really a concern that we must engage in. The other gap is local context. So there are so many studies from the US, from UK, from I don't know where, in Africa is South Africa. And I remember when I made a decision at Kiktanet that we were going to make research as one of our key pillars, I asked people used to come interview me about Kiktanet because they look at our model. Nobody in the world has been able to use our model, like Nigeria said. So they interview me, they go and do research, they speak about Kiktanet. And I asked people, who among you has not been to college? Who among you has not learned how to write? We are going to write. We are going to write our stories. We are going to capture what we do with women and tech. And we are going to put it out there. If anybody has an issue about how we write, there are so many platforms to counter what we do. And there are so many platforms to also, respond to us. And that's how come we got into research. Out of that, we have gotten so many women coming up and saying, look, how do we get protected? Actually, out of our research now, we're getting into a place where we're wondering, okay, next, what do we do with this? Because every single day we get calls. Oh, my boyfriend has put out my nude pictures. How do I protect myself? What do I do? And we're saying, okay, we tell people, you need to report to law enforcement. The other day I went to the police and they told me, you're training everyone else, but you have not trained us. So, and you expect me to draw the charge sheet. I am the first point of response. So if I draw that charge sheet and it is weak, it will never go anywhere. And I thought, okay, there's still so much that we need to do. We need to actually find out, conduct that research on law enforcement. What are the weaknesses? How can we work together? So what I'm saying is that we need that multidisciplinary approach where we are working with academia, we are working with practitioners, we are working with the hubs, especially when it comes to AI. And we are also working, and then we are all agreeing at the table in my favorite term, in a multi-stakeholder way. Some people say I love that term. In a multi-stakeholder way on how do we strengthen like AI and how it takes into consideration women and how they can operate safely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for reminding us that even when we talk about research in tech, it's as much about the tech as it is about the communities, and I think that's a very common through line so far. And coming to Dr. Onsobu, from the perspective of KIPRA, first I'm curious how you guys are approaching this AI. I'm sure as actors adjacent to government and within government, everybody's coming at you with a solution. But I'm just curious how you are thinking about it insofar as AI adoption advancing equity, inclusion, and socioeconomic development.
AI is a critical tool because, as we have heard right from the beginning of this discussion, we cannot do without it. And we can ask ourselves a simple question, like we are using these phones, and you can communicate with anybody world over. And this was not happening a while ago, when we used to use lines you'll go dial and you are able to talk and all that. But now with the AI, you are able to reach anybody, anywhere. And for the AI, from a policy dimension to tackle issues of inequalities and enhance equity, you can take an example of sectors like in health, in agriculture, and also in education, even in ICT itself. AI has a potential of sharing the findings and also what has to be done, because you are able to collect data real time, analyze it, develop a problem solution,
and also come up with an intervention to address that. And that can be done real time, and at the same time, reduce any gap that can be available, imminent in terms of exclusion and also inequalities. When it comes to development dimensions, AI becomes very handy when you are doing forecasts and economic modeling. From where I come from in terms of public policy making, this is an area that we are making inroads in terms of coming up with how do we use AI to do predictive analysis, run out scenarios of the future, ask hard questions, like if we are expecting droughts, for instance, in the next 3 months in January, what can we put in place now so that in January there's nobody maybe dying from hunger, animals dying, having maybe floods thereafter. So using data which is available in the space, like using GIS, you are able then to tackle inequalities, use this data which is now available in satellites, come up with policies, be able to tackle logistical issues, ensure that people access food, people access services where they have been left behind, like in education, in health, and also do even diagnostics or consultations. For instance, if you have a medical condition and you are in Kenya and the doctor is in US, what is required is to share the specimen, and using AI, that information can be interpreted in real time. The doctor back home is able to give you the prescription. That in itself is reducing exclusion and enhancing equity. Finally, in the space of policy, a number of things have to be done for us to adopt to AI. First is capacity and capability development right from early childhood, because that is when the brain is developing. So you can now have these young people adopt to the language of AI. The other area is on this data interoperability. We have a lot of data in Africa, or even in Kenya, and even in sectors, but nobody knows that this data is available. So AI can be used to mine this information, analyze it real time, collect any gap that is there, and make sure that no one is left behind by coming up with solutions. Another area is on leadership and stewardship of data, and also in AI. Recently, we've been talking of digital divide, but now we have moved to AI divide. So key drivers to get us out of exclusion is, first of all, to invest in high quality education across the country and across all counties. Ensure that any young person has an education that is ICT triggered. Another area is to ensure that all the people who have access to data, we adhere to the provisions that we have in government and even in the private sector. And government and private sector have to work as a team with the non-state actors, CSOs, because we are all building one continent and one nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'll just do another round and then we'll wrap up because I know it's getting late. And this round is really going to be around the question of collaboration. I'll tailor it a bit, Dr. Densmore, in your case, around something you brought up already. And this, AI is bringing up this question of ethics a lot. And you lead ethics committees and community-centered design projects. How do we ensure, and especially I think it's an African imperative you started to speak to, that African research institutions better integrate community voices and make these ethical considerations without thinking that's a back foot or that's just the thing we ask the Africans to do, but how do we work with it from a position of strength?
Position of strength. So I think one of the things that we need to hold on to in terms of position of strength is that when we are collaborating with international collaborators that aren't necessarily Africans, that we think about what is equitable collaboration. We don't let somebody put our name onto a proposal and then not count us, not actually consider our needs or ask us to input into methodology. We don't allow them to put a name on without actually funding our research, funding our students, that we don't allow them to write papers. They come to us and say, hey, can we hire a research assistant to help us with our research? And then they don't invite you to participate in methodology. They don't even invite your research assistant as a co-author. We shouldn't let that happen, and it's hard, right? It's hard to say no to international collaborators. But we need to be standing up for our own research and our own research rights. And part of that is having capacity to do that, having the strength to do that, and having the confidence as researchers to do that. I think the other thing that I want us to remember is that we have a regional advantage. We know Africa better than any other international researchers that are doing this work. And that means that we don't have to fly into our research sites once a year, but we can live and work with our communities in an ongoing relationship basis. We're not parachuting in and doing that kind of research. We know not only are we present and do we speak the local languages, do we know the local context, do we know the policy context, but we have that geographic advantage, and I think we should leverage that. I believe very much in community-led research where the communities are defining the problems, but also actually having that conversation with the communities at the beginning, what is a code of ethics for working with you as a community? And we've talked about collaboration. I was thinking, okay, when we talk about collaboration across disciplines, multidisciplinary collaboration, are often saying, okay, across medicine and computing. And I remember we're actually really bad at collaborating even within computing. Like AI researchers working with human-computer interaction researchers, working with systems or networking researchers, we have to do that collaboration. And the root of good collaboration is mutual respect. And I think whether we're trying to collaborate with community members or people in a different discipline within our own domain or across domains into health sciences or agriculture or whatever, that we need to start from a position of mutual respect. I find having co-supervision of students, having collaborative grants where we actually include our collaborating communities as named people on the grant is really important. We include funding for them. As we get funding for our time, we fund for their time as well, not just giving them money to recruit people. And so just thinking about that, the other thing that's come up for us recently is just how we think about compensation and remuneration in our research projects with communities. The standard is you compensate them for their time and transport, you give them a meal. And yet our students are getting whole degrees out of this work. Our salaries are being paid by our grantors, and yet these people that we're working with are struggling to feed their kids. How is this just? How is this equitable? And I think there's no good answer to this, because you can easily disrupt economies and create dependencies and other things, but we can't not think about it just because it's hard. And so we need to grapple with this, and we need to think about not just adopting standards from Belmont principles or whatever, but create African code of ethics, African research integrity. How do we do this in a way that speaks to our own values? And that starts by actually asking the communities what we work with, what is respectful of them, what is caring for them.
Let me just ask the room real quick before I go to Dr. Nderu. How many of you here are familiar with the African Charter on Human and People's Rights? Okay, let me back it up. How many here, again, consider themselves in the AI space? There were many hands that went up when that was asked. But no one knows about the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Now, please, mind you, it's not one of those documents that people don't read. Why we don't read is because we have abandoned very simple things, texts, our ancient texts, if you will, that really capture something really powerful about this thing of mutual respect. Unlike these models that the GDPR and others that have come at us that focus on the individual, that charter actually pointed out what rights and duties we owe one another, whether it's in a communal setting, and it has relevance to everything we're struggling with as a continent. We have abandoned some of our texts, and clearly by knowledge, among the knowledgeable is one example. Just to speak to this, just to really emphasize that we're not starting from nowhere. We've seen what Masahani have been able to do around publishing, where whether you were just coordinating research or a data annotator, you are listed as a publisher, and they have challenged journals to do that. And new open data license that's happening, because sometimes we talk about these things as if we've not started, and yet there's a lot of good work. So please, 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 let's do in the business of understanding our ancient texts. Dr. Nderu, I'll come to this question around the next even the current generation of talent. Now, personally, and I'll preface this by saying, I really do not like how we talk about capacity and skills in Africa. We're always placed on the back foot. There's always someone from on high and yonder who's going to come and train us and teach us and all these things. But I'm just curious around, because you've spoken to a shift, especially in the university environment, what do you think we should really be, what are we missing in how we talk about the next generation of AI practitioners? And, the question of collaboration, who do you think, for example, J-Hub should be collaborating with to make sure that these are holistic founders? They're thinking both about the, ecological, for example, as much as the code. Because that's another strength that we're not playing to as a continent.
Yeah, thank you, and a very, very heavy-loaded question, because I think once we get that right, then it means we are on a real path to success. One of the things I would say is that Marisa has talked about collaboration and respect that is needed on that. So if I look at the way we do it, I realize that I might have the domain knowledge in computer science, but I need a person, a domain expert in agriculture to be able to work with us. So, and that doesn't have to happen at the level of just the researchers. It should happen even from the students. So what I have done is that we bring students from agriculture, from health, and then we invite them for innovations to be able to work on that space. So in that sense, when a person from computer science talks about that we are solving this problem, he has the backing of a person who has some domain knowledge. We then bring in researchers to be able to encourage them to mentor these teams in terms of innovations. But now moving forward in the issue of, for example, at the point of training top researchers in AI, which I think is a major component. In the morning, we had that discussion around what do we miss at the top tier. We have, if you look at what I see, we have a lot of people in AI at the point of developers. We also have those ones on data annotation. But I think that top tier of top researchers who can be able to publish articles and this kind of thing, I think it's an area that universities are doing something about them. We are, for example, last week we had a meeting where we were looking at curriculums in PhD in AI, masters in AI, trying to bring in partners that can bring ideas on how we can revamp it. Of course, the program is there. We also have the Pan-African University, which is based at JKUAT, and we are running the masters in AI. So what I would say is that on that space, there's so much that needs to be done. And I think one weakness that we have is the fact that funding is not obvious. So as we cry about computing, remember when you have a student who is supposed to solve a problem in AI, he needs computing, she needs computing. So what you're talking about is if that computing is not available in a way that maybe there's a fellowship, there's a scholarship that can support this student, I think it becomes a problem. Also, I would say really, I think the government was here. I don't know whether the government is still here today, but I think university funding is a big issue. It's one of the things that I will look at and say we are in, maybe our view is in the next, if I look at it is, when I was a student, we paid around 38,000 per year. That's what you paid. And then it reached somewhere, the government remittance or capitation ended. I don't know whether this is good to say, Dr. Shiko could tell me perhaps, but this is the reality. So then it went down, the capitation, the government was supposed to pay. So as a student, to pay the total amount to the university was about 150, but the government paid around 38. No, I paid 38. The government is supposed to pay the top-up. So it reached a point where that top-up was no longer coming. So but the universities are supposed to teach high-quality guys who will be absorbed within the industry, the top of the top engineers that we need. And also, I'm expected to do research at a competitive level where a paper published from Microsoft Research Center, Dr. Jackie is here, should be competitive as what I'm also publishing, considering the resources that I have. So that model was realized not to work, and then there was now a shift to move the payment to the student. So the fees went up. Of course, that also has become another problem. Now the fees has gone down, but the gap between what was supposed to be paid and what is being paid, nobody is saying who is paying that now. So eventually, we have a problem that I think, even as we talk about training at high level, there are realities that we need to work with. But there is also an agreement that industry, even the organization, local industries, I'm very happy to see partners that are coming from entities around businesses and private sector coming in and working with universities, even at the level of public universities, supporting us as we try to train these people. I have 2024, we were listed as one university that has published a lot of articles in AI, right, in Kenya, followed by University of Nairobi. And we published articles that are good in terms of algorithms, in terms of methodology, but look at the resources. Of course, open source resources is what we were using. So what I'm saying is that there is need for partners to come in. I have seen cases where even from other settings where a company comes and says, we are hiring from your university. And because we are hiring from you, we would want to put some money to the training program so that then you can improve the quality of the people that you are producing. That would be gold. If somebody comes to me, because I know wherever I go to these talks, like even here I met a student who is from Jomo Kenyatta, just like I was entering, ushered me to where I could take some tea. So it means that there are those people, organizations that are benefiting from this talent that we are training. So why not then also put some money to help this talent grow, even if it is where they will be able to monitor throughout the cycle. Yeah. That's what I would say would really make a real change if we get that.
Lovely, lovely. And I hope that JQuat has evolved from JQuat Boys. Back in the day, it was just JQuat Boys. Gigi, looking at the topic you find whenever gender is mentioned or something like technology facilitated gender-based violence, it's almost assumed it's for a certain group of people to handle that. And we're not seeing it for the scourge of society it is. And currently in Kenya, we are seeing that it's even translating to the questions of femicide that we see in the news, and we're not understanding the broader context. So just again to the theme of collaboration, what are the sort of things, places like Qubit and others, how do we bring everybody to understand this is not just the thing that affects those guys over there or those women, but it's something that is to the core of all the things that we're trying to usher through innovation. And I don't mean build an app, but I mean in the collaboration that actually allows us to make a better environment around which, we elevate what we're talking about, the questions of gender in tech, for example.
Yeah. In our latest work, and maybe I should just ask, how many of you consume online spaces, like you're on X or you are on IG, or you're on TikTok? How many of you, by a show of hands? Okay, that's a good number. How many of you belong to those, what's a better word, ethnic groupings? There is Luo Nation, there is Gikuyu Nation, there is Abagusi Nation. How many of you belong to those? Or at least get in there to see what happens. Now, for research purposes, I actually follow a couple of them. I love the Luo Nation because I don't understand, but I get there and I get a lot of English words and
the dictionary.
Yes, and then they will notice my name and they'll say Nyako Okuyu, and I'll get out very fast and wait for tomorrow when they are meeting. Now, what we have found out is that the over 60 Kenyan languages still remain largely invisible to the LLMs and AI tools. And so in our work, like we are saying, we need collaboration. We may not be doing the technical work, but what we decided to do when you get to those groupings, there's a lot of gender-based violence using technology. So if it's even someone who does not deserve to be insulted, the nation, whichever nation, they will find a way to demean that woman. And so what we have decided and what we have just finished, we have done lexicons. Now, lexicons, these are select words that, we group for their context and their meaning, and we look for the nuances and how they are used. So even in Kiswahili, a simple sentence like kojoa ulale, you think it's a really straight sentence, but it's not, especially when it's used in that context. So we've just completed 6 lexicons in Kiswahili, in Somali, Teso, Gikuyu, the Luo, and Luya. Very interesting stuff that came out because we had to bring, Nigeria talked about how we work, we had to bring people who are interested in those languages to actually agree on what are those common terms that are used online. And therefore, we are now in discussion with some of the platforms to share those so that when those communities use those terms, that they will be highlighted as abusive terms so that people can continue, at least can even continue to communicate in own languages and feel safe, because a lot of people get out because of, that facilitated gender-based violence. The other thing we have done, because that is just a drop in the ocean, 6 out of 60. We are selling that idea to as many people as possible to take on board other languages, but also those who are interested in engaging with the ones that we have done. We can still, look at more words, but we would want to have more languages taken on board. And therefore, as we, as Shiko, I think that is one of the challenges we'll be throwing to the hub, to actually take on more languages to speak that. And why do we pick on local languages? During the Gen Z picketing, if you noticed, I never knew that there are so many of them who speak their own languages and so fluently. We had the Constitution interpreted in Gikuyu and the Luo and Kisii. We had the finance bill interpreted in Kikuyu, in the Luo. And I just thought, okay, so actually there is space for this. I look at the shows that happen. You find very many young people attending those cultural festivals, meaning that there is space for us to do this work. So we have sold and we are selling the lexicon projects to as many people as possible to come on board and help us do these other Kenyan languages. Now, in terms of research, we need what came out of that exercise is that there's need for research and development in gender-responsive AI policies. Again, as KICTANET, as people who engage in policy areas that need attention, that is one area that actually needs, again, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of collaborators to look into it. Then, of course, the issue of databases has been talked about. Developing databases, inclusive databases that reflect that linguistic and cultural diversity of not just this country, but of the continent. And I know there's the other question that is being asked, who benefits when AI has been trained so much on Kenya? Actually, AI knows Kenya, I think, more than any other African country. And it's because almost everyone who is in tech is engaging AI, and we have trained AI models even in our own local languages. So who benefits when all that data is mined, and how are we benefiting? And I know that's a question that we have to do. That can be discussed. And finally, I want to say that it is very important to have collaborative research across industry, academia, the tech, civil society, so that at least we are saying, this is what we think. We as civil society will be bringing the data. Us as tech people will be producing systems that then take that data and ensure that women are safe online and that they can engage in that robust environment. And I want to leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Last but not least, and it's funny, as I was listening to you, Gigi, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, we were doing that down the road at iHub with natural language. So we've come full circle with these things. And also at the same time, when we used to be bullish about Vision 2030, who are youth then? Where are they? They're hiding there. I remember, and Limo can attest to this, Kipra and Vision 2030 actually coming to engage the ecosystem. And I'm just curious, with AI and other things, how you're finding the public policy think tank like Kipra can engage spaces like these on national development priorities. I don't know what they are right now, but the question of how do we actually work towards something that is
let's say a Kenyan thing, we say we want to move from A to B. How can we, work with Kipra, as Qubit Hub, as Kictanet, as J-Hub, and others who are represented here towards that? Because you're the sort of like government whisperers we have around here right now.
Thank you. As Kipra, we are a public institution, and our role is building institutional capacities and capabilities in public policy research and analysis. And this is done through research. We interact with all the stakeholders, public, private, CSOs, individuals, among others, even development partners who support us. Now, coming to the blueprints that the government uses, starting with the Vision 2030, and now we have the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is being implemented through the MTP4. All of us have space to partner with Kipra because we are also under the State Department for Economic Planning, where the guidance on all the plans in the national government and county governments are being driven from. So in the space of ICT, AI, and even what we have talked about here, the first space is understanding this ecosystem of AI and data. We can collaborate, particularly in generating evidence, in generating data, and using this data to solve problems. These problems are in all the sectors because as Kipra, we work with all the sectors, be it macroeconomic, social sectors, infrastructure and economic services, private sector where we have fintech, and also governance where we work a lot with the devolved systems of governance, as well as the private institutions. So with all that, there is a lot that we can do in coming together, coming up with the collaborative research, and this has worked quite well with the various collaborators whom we work with. And in this space of AI, one area which I'd like to emphasize on is it possible for us to work as a team, collaborate, and monetize these innovations? Because there are so many young people who are working, but they're not earning. They have no social protection. When they grow older and they were in the IT space, there's nobody who will pay for their health. There's nobody who will pay for their children's education because the labor market has not adopted to the innovations in AI and who is working there. So that is an area which we can come up with the proposals on policies that then we pass to the ministry in charge of labor. The same with the Ministry of Education. One of our colleagues here said what Chekwat is doing. An area where we really have to work very hard is tertiary education. We know that our youth, immediately they finish Form 4, not all of them go to university. Actually, 70% do not make it to universities. Which then means the young people who are 70% who are finished Form 4, nobody is talking about them. Nobody is tracking them where they are. So it's an area maybe we can use AI in the education and training sector to track the population, know the innovations they have, and where they can be placed so that they can be productive. Coming to the productive sectors, starting from the agriculture, we have livestock, we have crops. This is an area where AI has really gained good ground. We've heard of drones which are used even to spray, and even to know where the harvest is ready and you are able to pick the harvest. And some of the AI tools are able to detect even diseases and what type of solution you have to give. You don't have to walk for a long distance to identify these problems because then we are operating and as a space where you are not limited by time. You can work 24/7 because when you are resting, others are working. So that is the area maybe we can collaborate to come up with the policies that guide people who are working in the AI space and then the IT space where we have new technologies coming, Internet of Things, big data, and other innovations. Then finally, in terms of structured collaborations, monetization of these innovations, and making sure that everybody in every space of the value chain and the ecosystem benefits. At the moment, the spaces where the most benefit is going to are maybe multinationals. Then where are the individuals being left? As policymakers, that is an area we can pick and collaborate and make sure that as nobody is being left behind in the AI space, then the Kenyans, the young people who are working very hard in the space are also benefiting. They have improved livelihoods, and also their future is secured. In the Vision 2030, finally, we at KIPRA, we are now working closely with the various agencies and non-state actors to work on the background work in preparation for the Vision 2031-63. And this is an area where we can collaborate to rethink on what is going to be the space of our development after 2030. And here we are coming up with an economic modeling hub. In this hub, we have many tools where we'll be doing forecasts and also scenarios, as well as models by sectors. And those now will help us put together the data that has been there up to date and look to the future and what we need to do at the national level, at sector level, across counties, and even up to the sub-county level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to this panel. I will make an executive decision that you will talk to them at cocktail hour. But thank you to these great minds that we have. My parting shot will be that knowledge without understanding is no knowledge at all. That's our imperative as Africans and Africans in this ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Riaz has something to give to you. All right, as our thank yous are being shared, let's just all stand up for a minute. I'm going to try open this door again. I need a volunteer. Do you mind holding the door out? It's hot. We're very late. And then as we're doing this, Miss Monica from Nation Media, if you can make your way here, and Mr. Denson, make your way here. All right, stretch our arms, try and reach the gypsum that is above us. Take a deep breath in. All right, no, okay. As we sit, Ms. Denson, good, okay, and Monica. Now we can be seated. We are very, very close to hard drinks that have been promised and some sustenance. It is coming. Thank you for your patience. All right, if you can just wait for me outside. All right, earlier, Dr. Shiko mentioned that there were going to be some announcements. We have one announcement that's going to be made before we have our following, before we have our last panel. Monica Ndungo is currently the Chief Corporate Affairs, Marketing and Partnerships Officer at Nation Media Group, overseeing corporate affairs, marketing and partnerships, including the Nation Media Foundation. Is she in the room? Ah, fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I feel like it's a setup to talk at this time. I'm like, yo, to get the energy going needs a lot of work. But I'm extremely excited because we are having this conversation within the confines of our knowledge, the confines of our nuances, the things that we need to be having conversations about. So the cameraman, I work for a media house, but I hate being in front. So the camera people have asked me to move here. Are you happy? All right, thank you. And so for me, today is one of those days where you think about the media industry, you think about doom and gloom, then you think about it again, and you think about it in the context that Africans have never consumed or created as much content as they are doing in 2025. But then it takes us back. And then you think about it in the context of, and I think the lady from Kipra in the panel was fantastic, is are we having sustainable business models out of the content we are creating? Because then, where is our content sitting? And when it sits there, how are we able to access it? Because accessing it becomes easy, but where is the money going? The PwC report that looks at what they call the entertainment and media industry speaks to the fact that next year, in 2026, 50% of all advertising revenue will be digital. But 75% of the 50% will go to big tech. And then 25% will be left between influencers, Nation Media Group, and friends. So if you think about it in that context, think about Nation Media Group. Its existence for 66 years, set to, at that time, because it was just as Africa was getting out of colonialism, it was to give a voice to the voiceless. That's why His Highness the Aga Khan set up the Nation Media Group. Now, at that time, think about it, the voice to the voiceless. Today, that's not the context for which we exist, because anybody can have a voice wherever they choose to have a voice. Think last year during the protest. Think about the creation of content by right now while you're seated here, how much content have you consumed? How much have you shared? So think about that now. And then we asked ourselves as Nation Media Group, we've built capacity over 66 years to tell stories, so content creation, to distribute those stories. Initially, it was on linear, it was on newspaper. It's now across digital touchpoints. And to monetize what it is we create. And so that is what led to the formation of the Nation Media Foundation. And the Nation Media Foundation is supposed to be a catalyst, not just for the media as a small thing, because think about it, everybody speaks about the creative economy, but we sit at the nexus and we say we are the biggest creative economy engine across Africa. Because any single day we are producing content for text, video, audio, we are then distributing it across TV, print, radio, digital, and we are doing this physically in 4 countries, so Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, but then we are able to distribute this across the internet, across wherever anybody wants to access it from. But when we looked at the Nation Media Foundation and it's been interesting to see the thread of what everybody has been talking about, the Nation Media Foundation has 2 pillars: education and literacy, and the creative economy. Those are our 2 pillars. And those 2 pillars, I'll just focus for this particular reason, I'll focus on media and information literacy. The purpose for that sub-theme is to build the ability for citizens across the continent to analyze, evaluate, and responsibly create content across media and information sources. And our focus is on dealing with misinformation and disinformation, media analysis, academic research skills. And why we want to do that is to build a generation of critical thinkers and truth champions who strengthen democracy and an informed citizen. Now, that ties to the work we are doing with Carla. So 2 pieces of work that have been, the last 1.5 weeks, our teams have been out in Joburg. and sat with Dr. Shiko, who's fantastic, and her team, and thought through some of our problems. How can we solve some of those problems? And those problems, there's two ways currently that we are working with Kala. And so part of the announcement is on what we've started, and you'll see a demo shortly from Dr. Shiko and Morris from Baraza Media Lab. But the other thing is, when we think through how do we work with people like Qubit, with people like Kala, in terms of where we are, is if today you needed to check factual information, so work with me here, don't look at me and say media ni ya kufunga gazeti. What was it? There's something that was said. Ni ya kufunga nyama, is it? Like gazeti ni ya kufunga nyama. But I'll tell you for a fact, if today something runs on the Nation Media Group, the chances of it having had so much background of being fact-checked is so high that should we make a mistake, our editorial policy demands, not asks, demands that we immediately apologize. So two of the things that we are working with Kala is an LLM to create an opportunity for all that content we have generated for 66 years to sit in a place where you can ask it a question for context. For example, and I hate to use this example, but allow me to. Dalmas Otieno died 2 days ago, was it? It was over the weekend. Now, there are people who don't know who Dalmas Otieno is. So the easiest way for them to do is for them to do what? Go on Google or go on ChatGPT now and ask who is Dalmas Otieno. Now, what if we provided them the opportunity to go into a product that we've built with Kala that can do this kind of thing? And for us, it's not so that we can look at it as an end in itself. I want you to think back to what the Nation Media Foundation does. The Nation Media Foundation is to ensure that we are providing an opportunity to build literacy and to give people an opportunity where they can check that the information that they are consuming has been verified or fact-checked. So for us, there's an urgency, because as everybody has talked about, AI now allows you to do so much. But the question is whether AI will transform Africa. I think that has been spoken to a lot. I'll not go into that. So for us, what we are building is an AI intelligence platform as part of what we are working with Kala. And we are not just fine-tuning foreign AI. That's why I've gone into this whole process of telling you how much data we've accumulated for the 66 years. So what we want to do is to make a platform that extracts our unprecedented depth of knowledge that we have built for 66 years, make this information digestible and accessible to users to make them make quick decisions. What we want to do is to create a knowledge base and a template or prototype for Africa's AI future. One of the things the foundation does, the foundation is agnostic. So it's not about Nation Media Group. It's about enabling the ecosystem. And for us, that's a big thing. The second thing, which is another thing that makes me so happy, and I should ask Dr. Shiko to come here if she's in the room. I can't see her. Can I see her from here? Because they could have done that, the demo. But the second one is, I think Dr. Gigi has talked a lot about gender-based violence, just how much. So think about AI in the African context. It already has bias when you ask it to give you anything about our continent. But just imagine being a woman, a black woman, who wants to consume or to create using AI tools now. We were told by Ambassador Kabira that currently AI is a white, male, conservative. When I picture them in my head, they have a pot belly. Like I can, it's not a pretty photo in my head. But think about now, think about the woman in this case. And so part of what we also want to do with Dr. Shiko, which for me is extremely exciting, is what is called the IDEA Fellowship Program. And the IDEA Fellowship Program is a 12-month research initiative exclusively for women scholars across Africa. It focuses on AI-enabled smartphones for livelihoods and maternal health, and fellows from computer science, health informatics, and innovation fields will co-design AI solutions with African women and for African women. It's not just research, it's participatory innovation that puts African women at the center of AI design, which for us is very important. This year marks 30 years since Beijing. And for us to then sit with Carla and find a way to work at including women in building AI products that are of benefit to them and for them is important. So Dr. Shiko has reminded us and reminded the team this past week when they spent a lot of time together that journalism is our frontline defense. There's been the whole talk about, what is media dead? But I don't think media is dead. I've said contextually, Africans are consuming more content now than they ever have. The thing about journalism is adapting to ensuring that they get the information that is true, that is credible, that they can rely on. And so tonight, I'd like to ask Dr. Shiko to come because she'll demo just a bit. Are you ready to do the demo? Yes, so they'll demo just a bit of the intelligence product that we're building. And after this, thank God for Nation Media Group. Every month, we have about 63 million people that access our platforms. We'll do a big do about just providing more information around what we're doing together, but also about attracting people to the fellowship. So you can come and demo for us. I'm quite excited about it, particularly because it's going to be trained on content that we've built over those many years. And thank you, Dr. Shiko and Carla, for that.
Thank you so much, Monica. It was one of the surprise things about believing that Nation believed in us as well. They're telling me. It's 66 years of data. I don't think anybody else can actually say you have that kind of data. And I want to call Cheryl, because Cheryl is the other partner who is working on the IDEA Fellowship. And then she can talk about it, and then we have NVIDIA, then we can do the demo as the last part.
Of course. So here's that quick one-liner.
AI is...
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that, and I think Monica has done a good job at explaining what the IDEA Fellowship is about. So my name is Cheryl Akinyi. I work with the Open Society Foundations as an ecosystem builder, investor in ideas, and peddler of ideas and believer in many things. So I'm really, really glad to be part of this today and part of this conversation. And really, the problem statement that we're seeking to address is the fact that, if you look at the ecosystem, only 22% of the technical skills or professionals within the AI space are female. So part of the ambition within the IDEA Fellowship is to build a pipeline of talent and people women specifically, who can be able to build, co-create, and design tools and products that are fit for the environment and culturally very resonant. Because one thing, if the tech, like has already been said by many speakers before, is not being created by the users, there's so many exclusions within that. So we're trying to really mainstream that, and that's one of the ambitions that we have, to have at least in the end of time, within the 12-month period and even in future, to build a cohort and group of female AI tech, super users, super builders, and practitioners that can be able to shape the field and capture the voices of the traditionally excluded population. So building solutions, coming up with ideas, that's something that we're really keen on investing in. And hopefully as we pilot and walk this journey together, we'll be able to see how it can grow and expand and serve the communities that we believe in. Because The other bit is, I mean, we can't have a society where half of the population that the economies are built upon are not part of the solution providers. So it really speaks to a bigger question and bigger problems that need to find solutions. And I think that's what Dr. Shiko and team are really also committed to supporting, and will walk the journey with them. So really glad to partner with Nation Foundation and the Gates Foundation as well, and many other actors, universities and think tanks that will work with towards making this dream come to reality. So thank you so much, and over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. Next, we will have an announcement by Wei Zhao, Director of Developer Relations for the Middle East and Africa at NVIDIA. I believe she is online.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, she's not there, so we can go into the demo. I'm really excited about this product because you see the power of data in real life on use cases that you actually use. Introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Wayne Otema Egesa, data and AI engineer at Kala, and with me I have...
Hello everyone. I'm William Munguti. I'm a data and AI engineer at Kala.
Yes, so probably as they load us up, I think we probably have the hardest task here. Our task is to show a demonstration of a tool that we believe will have great impact on how we deal with media and how people interface with media. But at the same time, we still have like a few minutes to just go over it. So forgive us if we seem rash and gloss over it, but we hope you strongly understand it. So most of us interact with, most of us, or if not all of us, have interacted with the newspaper at some point. And exactly what Nation Media has said, over the period of time, they have gathered so much data, and we have partnered with them to develop a solution that can put all of these things on one single platform that anybody can just ask a question and they get responses from their data. So that is a demo landing page of the solution. And I think we can quickly go over the functionalities that exist in this platform as we try to explain. I think, yes, go to the next tab. So yes, somebody said, imagine it kind of like a ChatGPT LLM kind of approach where you just query ask a question, you ask it a question, and then you get a response from the LLM. Now, due to time, we won't go over this because there's so many amazing features after this. So I just want to gloss over it really quickly. Beyond that, there's another feature where you can get analytics of the news articles. So this can be it can be a client-facing feature, or it can be a user-facing feature. The idea here is it'll show you analytics of articles over a period of time. So it can tell you the total reports, the sentiments of a report of the sentiment of articles over a period of time. So in this case, you're seeing July to January 2024, and this is actually real live information. You actually had to get this data and analyze it so that it can be displayed in this format. So you can imagine the kind of analysis you can get from an article. A user can get a sense of how things have been trending over a period of time. I think go to the next one. Yes, and then one of the now cool features that is kind of not seen in other forms of digesting information is the news map. So in a news map, basically here is, if anything has existed in the Nation Media corpus of data, if you type in that question, we will go into that data and try to retrieve all the other entities that are related to this particular entity and try to display it for you. So the UI is still under refinement, but this shows a very different approach to how people consume data. So you might want to know how Nairobi City is related to all the other, what other entities is related to. So you kind of get a graph representation of what is related to Nairobi City. And all of these nodes, or when we say nodes, but all of these dots are actually existing articles and cited articles that exist in Nation Media at some point. And it talks about Nairobi City at a particular thing. So if you are interested in that particular article and how it's related to it, you can click on it and then go further on and read it. So granted, we are still refining the UI, but this presents a new way of consuming media. This presents a new way of people who want to consume information to do the research. I think we can go to the next tab. And then now a really amazing feature that Dr. Shiko really loves it's an explorer, an intelligence explorer tool. So the idea behind this is you can have a question and it can go in depth into the existing knowledge base and do investigative research to help you form stronger ideas regarding that question you had. So in our question, we have, what has been the trend of Kenyan economy since 2010? So you can click begin investigation. So the system will start thinking about that problem and then against the knowledge that Nation Media has and try to come up with, one, answers to that question, and then two, follow-up questions that can be gotten from your initial question that you can go in depth and do further investigation on. So in this sense, if as it continues building, what we see as this is, if I have a question such as, how did Mangu perform I have a child who wants to go to Mangu, how did it perform? It can sit down and think about it and generate reports about it, but can also provide follow-up questions about it. So you said you want to take your child to Mangu. Maybe these are the things you should be considering before you take your child to Mangu. And other than that, it can help you find, it can help people have an investigative kind of research against the knowledge that Nation Media has provided. So because we know that they have documented a large corpus of data, you don't have to go out there and have to hustle to get the information. You can quickly just type in the question and it'll go in depth and then do the research. And then the white nodes you're seeing, these are the actual answers, and the blue nodes are follow-up questions you can continue on researching on. So if maybe you can click on any blue node, really. Yes, so when you click on that, it goes thinking again, and then it'll generate an answer on that, and then further display it. So granted, the UI is still being worked on, but we see this as a different way of people consuming information and learning how to get data. All of this can still be setted back, will still be setted back to the Nation Media articles, so they will still also get the readers, and their partners they're partnering with them will still get the revenues and views that they require. I think I know there's so much, but in case I am forgetting anything, I'd like to welcome William to expound on something if in case there's anything I'm missing.
Yeah. I actually think maybe something you can add on. There was a whole presentation that has been made, but yeah, it seems time is rushing. So there was there's some important aspects about report generation. So where you actually are able to, based on the content that you require. So there's a feature where you, to just enable you to save time. You might have to go through comb through a whole database of information, or let me call it data. Yeah. So you might have to comb through all this big knowledge of information to just be able to generate a report on a certain topic. So with the current, there's a feature that we have that just enables you to do this. So you just type in the value of what you want to say. Sorry, I'm talking in techie things, but you state this whatever you want to look for. So after you do that, now you'll be able to come up with a platform that enables you to just generate. There's an aspect of where it enables to generate its own reports, and there's also a functionality where you can customly choose how to put your report. So you'll be able to customly make it to however you prefer it, or you can choose to go with the system generation. So yeah, I think that's it. And yeah, nothing else to add. Thank you.
Yes, so that is the end of our demo. We very much hope that it'll be out soon and you'll get to utilize it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think a louder. Thank you. All right, ladies and gents, we're going to have to look for Alfred, Susan, Chido, and Engineer Chumba at the drinks, because I think in the interest of time, we won't have the finals, and perhaps because I was a developer, most important voice in the ecosystem that unfortunately we're not going to get to today, which is developers. Qubit will hopefully host an event soon that allows for that voice to now bring this all together. And so in the interest of time and getting you to a drink of water or juice or something else, I'm going to invite Joram Winamo, Group CEO of Sandbox, to please come for closing remarks. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Good? Okay, you can pull up the energy. Is it just me, or today feels like a reunion of Bishop Magua? Or anyone who laughs at that is above the age of, let's not talk about that. Yeah, but I see so many familiar faces, and I think the action began there 2008, and this feels like a remake or a rebirth of a new wave of the AI movement. That time it was the internet, blogs were a thing, and that's how I think at around the same time M-Pesa emerged, and then Kenya, became the Silicon Savannah over time and created a buzz, and has kind of managed to stay at that level. And so what's happening now is, as we inject AI into that movement, I hope we can consolidate all the different things that are happening and just build, the next wave of innovations on this continent. I think we've created a name for ourselves as a country. I think we can keep pushing that to the next level. And so I'm excited to see all of you. I know you might have all dispersed from Bishop Magu at some point and gone in different directions. And now we have things like this that are, getting born. So yes, my name is Joram Winamo. I happen to be the chair of Kala. I call myself Shiko's speed governor, because if you let Shiko free, we would have done this launch in Mars. Trust me. These guys do not hold back. They think, they work hard, they create, and they don't wait to be given permission. They go ahead to create the future that they hope to see. And so I'm very proud to be associated. Thank you to everyone who's made it here, all the partners. I saw a very long list. I was like, if I read it, people will start viewing me like a glass of, cocktail juice or something. And so I'm not going to go through the entire list, but I thank everyone who came from the government, from the different institutions, Nation Media, Open Society, Kipra, our speakers who are up here from the former CS Joe Musharu, Ambassador Kabiru. I was with him on Sunday at a reception. There's a lot happening in this country that's positive. I think we just need to break down the silos, in the different aspects. I do believe the private sector is on to break down these silos. I've tried to look at who in the ecosystem is going to do this, and it's the people who don't ask for permission that just bring everyone together and say, let's move forward. There's a lot of great stuff happening. I've been involved in stuff like with what Kenya National Innovation Agency is doing around trying to promote innovation in public sector institutions, in the academia sector. I think there's a conference next week called Commercialization, and it's this week, and Commercialization and Entrepreneurial Institutions leaders coming together, and it's all the unlikely people coming together. You've had these associations for ecosystem players. As all these people come together, I think we're going to create a country that the world will keep looking at. Like I say, let's not ask for the permission. Let's create for the global stage. Let's not create for Kenya or for Africa. Let's create for the global stage. Let's leapfrog. And thank you for showing us the way, Shiko, and partners. Thank you for everyone who's supporting this as well. And NVIDIA, like I could go on and on and on about all the different Gates Foundation. I know we've all worked hard to put together different things that are beginning to come to fruition now. Thank you for everyone who came and stayed this long. We appreciate your presence, your partnership, and we look forward to launching better things going into the future with all of you. May God bless you and have a great evening. Let's look for each other at the reception after this. Thank you.
The reception courtesy of Carla for today is next door. Thank you so much. Thank you and have a lovely, lovely evening. Huh? If you want, we can walk you through the lab. Oh yes, oh yeah, that is a good thing. So people from Kala, lift up your hands. Grab somebody from Kala and they will walk you through the lab.